All right, welcome to the party, pals. So let me know if the music might be a little bit too loud. I'm playing around with that portion, and we'll go ahead and get the party started here. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this introduction like I typically do, and I'm going to actually go ahead and drop the link now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the stage link. So I want everybody to feel comfortable to come up. I have plenty of talking topics for tonight from my notes from Wild West, and just want to create some of the conversation around it. So if you want to go ahead and join the stage, then you'll be on the backstage until after this portion here. I see so many familiar people. GRC Mafia. We got Rhonda. We got AB Showtime. We got Rania. We got Kayla Sturgeon popping in. Let's see. A couple other people. We got B-Dubs in the chat too. Bam. All right. So every single month we go through and we're trying to get speakers for the first and second week of each month on various topics and what they're kind of comfortable with. If you would like to present something, or if you know somebody else who may be interested, definitely reach out, send them our way and so forth, and we'll see what we can do. The last Thursday of every single month is dedicated to our job readiness and group resume review. That's actually going to be, let's see here. Yep, so next Thursday is actually going to be ours for this month, for December. And then we're looking at like the presentation for the first 25 minutes or so after the introduction, and then move into like open discussion, weekly topic review, and then try to throw in like maybe some type of activity in there as well. All right, and then I wanted to add this slide in here because, a shared mission, that's what I really see us all meeting up together every week for. Our purpose is to break down the barriers, collaborate together, and really a more secure future, moving forward. We're here to learn and grow together, and I want everybody to feel comfortable. Come up on stage. You don't have to turn on your video. Drop your questions in chat, anything whatsoever. It's a very, very safe space to go through and share and learn in. And then that brings me over here to the guidelines here. So it is a business casual meeting. It is recorded and live streamed. Don't share anything you don't want to be public. If you do happen to share something that you don't want to be out there, just reach out to me on Discord or LinkedIn, or email me at this email here, and we'll get that figured out. Definitely ask your questions. YouTube is pretty funny about links, but you can also join our Discord server. Let me go ahead and drop the link for that. And you could drop your personal LinkedIn profile link in our live chat channel, and that will replay throughout the different platforms. And share different resources, even if it doesn't pertain to exactly what we're talking about at that time. Worst case scenario, we'll circle back around to it. All right, and then studygrc.org in order to check out the other social platforms that we're also on. So we are live streaming to YouTube, X, LinkedIn, and Twitch. I think that's all of them. And then we also have the privacy stream on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Central. So definitely check that portion out. And then let me go ahead and move on over here. How is the music sounding so far? Is it too loud, too low? It's supposed to be like Christmas vibes. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop the link again. And then I'll start pulling people up on stage. And then we did a poll earlier. Welcome to the party, pal, Steph.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
So we did a poll earlier, and one of the winning is to talk about the Dawn of Enlightenment, which was Jerry's keynote. So I have some notes from that. Did you happen to have anything from that in particular, Steph?
I mean, Jerry's just such a charismatic, wonderful host and great speaker. So he's...
do you mind if I drop your LinkedIn in the chat?
Me?
Yes. Putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
it's okay.
I gotta find my LinkedIn real quick.
Oh, I have it here if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, no, go for it. Please do.
Perfect. Yeah, so there's Steph, is it Cluis?
That's it.
Is that the prop? Perfect. There's her LinkedIn there. Definitely reach out and connect. You're welcome to come up too, Kayla. Sturgeon.
Kayla. I met Kayla at Wild West Hackening.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, a bunch of us were there. It's awesome. All right, perfect. The sound is good.
I'm trying to think back to Jerry's keynote.
So I just had my notes up here. All right, so some of my key takeaways from that. And so this was actually recently published on YouTube finally. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for that here in a moment. But the overarching aspect is the fact that, like, back in the day, there wasn't really that much out there for information security, cybersecurity at all to learn and improve and practice with. It was pretty isolated, and the industry was slow to respond because of that. And then now we've moved out of the dark ages, and as Jerry had stated, and now, you know, we have Try Hack Me, we have Hack the Box, we have all kinds of different meetups, B-sides, all these conferences, and so many different sources of information, all these YouTube channels that have sprouted up over the last, you know, probably 10 or 15 years. And it's just really like the information's out there, it's just finding it now. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for reaching out to me on Discord. Appreciate it. How y'all doing? It's good to see you again, Steph.
Awesome.
You too.
It's great to meet Chris and Steph at Wild West Hacking Fest. Loved getting to meet all the people in Team SC. So, excuse my messy office, by the way. It's just
not at all. Yeah, Wild West was such a great experience. That was my first in-person conference, so quite impressive. Yeah. Especially then, you know, Simply CyberCon a few weeks after that, and the B-sides that, you know, was partly coinciding with Simply CyberCon. So
that was great. It was the first conference. Well, I say that I went to DISC, Zdragos's conference in 2022, but this was like the second conference I got to go to. I didn't have to work at one, and I just got to take it in. So.
Actually do it. Yeah. Especially being my first conference, I kind of feel like a lot of it I neglected just because it was my first conference. So I didn't know anything before I got there. I was just like, oh, that's the schedule. All right, I guess I'll figure it out. So
yeah, same. It was my first real cyber conference too. I've been to like IT conferences, but it was the first cyber focused. And I was so impressed with, so I was like, oh, I'm going to go and it's going to be all like red team and like stuff that I don't do at all. Like I'll just go and see like what's happening. And I was so impressed with just like the wide variety of, I don't know what word I'm looking for. The different pieces of the pie that are all there together, because it had stuff for GRC, it had blue team, it had red team. Yeah. And I got to learn like about other aspects that I don't usually get to spend a lot of time with. So
I mean, there was even a little piece too about operational technology. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's talking about water plants, right? And just critical infrastructure, which was great because I know a few of my co-workers went down to B-sides in Austin recently, and there wasn't any OT there. So I think they're kind of have some ideas maybe about doing a paper or something next time they go. So it was very diverse. Yeah, I went there not knowing anyone. Except for like the people I see on YouTube all the time.
And you get to go fangirl out over all the people that you're like, oh my gosh, I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were so many different people. One of the big things that I didn't realize is all of the extras that they would have as well. So all of the after party stuff, they had like electric bull, they had the chess thing, they had an entire section for you to like dress up in costumes and get photos taken as a group, and they had all kinds of different extras included as well, which I thought was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna do more next year. I missed a lot of that because I just wasn't feeling super great. I was like still recovering from like a illness.
Going on.
But now that I kind of know what to expect, I think I can pace myself a little bit better next time. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we can pull
I'm glad
up the
it's going
schedule
over.
too.
It wasn't. I got his card. I'll go run and get it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, not an issue. But yeah, so with the Dawn of Enlightenment, with Jerry at least, I did drop that in the chat. I can drop it again too. Let me see here. But that was the key, like the overarching thing is that we are just living in a golden age for all of this information that's out there. And it wasn't like that 20, 30 years ago. So
I wouldn't
definitely
know,
take advantage.
but I do think it's great. And he's totally right that, you know, that's come a long way. And it's so great that everybody has access. It's just a matter of finding the resources, and the community is amazing. And like, that's how I ended up moving into cybersecurity. I was originally a teacher and then moved into IT, and even just watching Simply Cyber and getting, you know, involved a tiny bit. It's really hard for me because it's really early in the morning to do live stuff, but I watch Simply Cyber every morning before, like while I'm working, like to start my day, to like go over the news and review everything. And that was huge. And just the resources that even just Jerry points to was huge for me in realizing that like, this is really interesting and these are great resources, and I can do a lot of self-paced learning without having to go and feel like I have to get a degree or something like that right away, or like any certifications. That there's a huge variety of free or very low cost resources to develop cyber skills out there.
Yeah, I love the fact of like all the different communities that are out there now too. So all the local meetups and so forth. So it's way more than just Wild West. And that's part of like what his talk was about too. InfoSec Maps is what I've shared before. I'll drop that in chat too. So InfoSec Maps is a great spot to find different local meetups and things happening in your area too. They have some virtual things on there.
I'll have to look at that. It's very difficult here to do meetups. It's just
That's my issue.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Because like we'd have to
Dakota
probably do
a great spot.
like Mountain West kind of area. And I actually met somebody after the open mic from Bozeman, which is where I work and I live nearby. And we were both like, oh my gosh, we could start our own B-sides and be the only two people. You know, everything's so spread out, as you know, Chris, living in one of those states that's like takes hours to get anywhere else. The in-person meetup is very challenging. So thank you for starting like this group. I'm sorry I don't participate more. It's hard to like eat, breathe, sleep cybersecurity all the time and work on a computer all day and then be like, I'm gonna go back on the computer for another hour.
Oh yeah, no, I completely understand. And whenever people do have time, I mean, it's just an absolute honor for people, because everybody who shows up here, everybody here in chat, you guys up here on stage, you know, you guys are donating your time to the community itself. So, I mean, that means a lot. So you guys could be doing a lot of other things. Let me see.
And I got to shout out Space Tacos. Yep, former teachers.
Seems like a common pathway, to be honest. And I think that's actually really awesome, because the skills that you bring into it.
Yeah, so I mean, speaking of teachers, like what I do is I run a military schoolhouse, right? So taught, just not actually having that teacher background.
Sounds scary.
Well, you know, you're in the military, you just rip the Band-Aid off of you as soon as you get there. But it is I don't know, imposter syndrome's a thing, right? Every day. But I work around a bunch of people that are a lot smaller than me, and some of the students that come through, I mean, you're just like, how do you even know that?
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that I also saw, especially meeting so many people that I've talked to through Discord for the previous year at Wild West, and then meeting them in person. You know, everybody, another big takeaway, like after the conference is we all really kind of have a shared mission on, defending. And that was like one of the things that was briefly mentioned in Wade Wells's ending keynote is, we're all really blue team, which I thought was kind of funny. But everybody kind of does their own little thing and, does their specializations with a shared mission throughout the industry. Yeah, and PBO also, did education for a while too. And I think that's a really good pivot into Wade Wells' talk as well. So he did Cultivating Growth and Connections, which there were so many different key things that I took back out of that. I watched that 2 other additional times after leaving. Did either of you guys catch that talk by chance?
Yeah.
I thought that was straight up competition with Jerry's keynote.
So I'm not gonna lie, and sorry if I'm lagging. This is the first time I've been on like a live stream like this, but I can't hear for most of the part, most of the time. So I could not hear Jerry for most of this keynote, unfortunately. But I did hear Wade, and I mean, I got a little misty-eyed. It was very touching, and I think it was a very powerful message because burnout's real. So having that balance is definitely important. Make sure you're checking in on yourself and keeping in with your loved ones and stuff too. And anything you're doing to move that 1%, that's a win, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, he touched on several different things. So like loneliness and isolation, there's this report here. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to that in chat. This was one of his citations. And that was a report from the, what is that, Department of Health, I believe, if I remember offhand. Health and Human Services. And so they did a report back in 2023 regarding the epidemic on loneliness and isolation. And he took a lot of the information out of there too. And yeah, he focused on a couple different parts. So like, one of the really cool things I thought was interesting is he did mention towards the end of it about push to network. So he had basically positioned it like, oh, we tell all of these people to, go out there and network, but we really shouldn't do that. We should really position it as in, don't go out there to network, go out there to join the culture. Which that little distinction difference, I think, is pretty big actually.
Yeah, that I don't remember that specifically, but that sounds like something that was happening during that conversation, and he's right. So, I mean, where you're at now, right? I'm at a certain age in my life, and one day I'm not going to be doing this anymore. I'm not going to be able to. So you have to cultivate that culture around you. I mean, I live in a not so robust metropolitan area too, so it seems like I got a little bit more here, but when you think about the different opportunities and some of the opportunities that I didn't have as a child, right, there's a lot more out there now. We got to instill that into the youth and get them excited and lift each other up, because we all start somewhere. We're not going to know everything, and every day we're learning. Is it Rania?
Rania?
You think Rania? Oh, hey.
Yeah, it's Rania.
Yep. Yeah, did you have anything else to include up to this point?
I was
or
just
you want to bring up?
Yeah, I was going to go back to Jerry's talk where we are in the golden age. Like, I want to say I went to high school maybe 15, 16 years ago, and the only way into IT and any of that was taking computer science classes. And one of the biggest roadblocks I had was a mentor who I looked up to. He was so burnt out with the industry that he basically just said, no one's going to hire me because I'm a woman. And that mindset has obviously changed, but it's still the same in some areas. But we do have so many more resources today that I didn't have access to when I was trying to get into IT 15, 16 years ago. So it's definitely, it's a great time to be able to have these resources. Like when I first started programming, I had a textbook and that was it. And if I didn't have a VS Code that gave me where the problem was, I had to go through my 1,000 lines of JavaScript and, you know, find where I missed the semicolon. So it's definitely a huge change in just the entire ecosystem of learning, not just for IT, but everything else and cybersecurity. So I do think that while we have a little bit of a higher barrier to entry, you know, you don't go to school anymore, get a degree and just get a job like you used to, because you have so many learning opportunities that you didn't have before when school was the only way in. So, you know, we do have more information, more people willing to talk to you. And that, I think, goes into Wade's talk, where reach out to people. So many people are worried about, oh, they're going to tell me no. You'll never know the answer to that question unless you reach out. And that's one of my biggest things with LinkedIn is I took it and ran. When they told me that I needed to network when I got out of the military on LinkedIn, I was like, sure, these people are strangers. They don't know me. I don't know them. It doesn't matter what they think of me until I put myself out there and meet them. I had to get over the fear of rejection. And a big turning point was me understanding that while these people I meet or reach out to might become really important people to me, right now they're nothing and they don't control what happens to me. But me stopping myself from taking those opportunities does a lot more damage than them simply saying no. So I think just one of the biggest things that got me to be more outgoing, and I know Chris, you can attest to me putting people out there, right?
Yeah, you were straight up PR the whole time at Wild West.
But it is just so important. You have to be your own cheerleader for your life and the opportunities that you want to happen. And if you don't put effort into it, you're not going to get anything out. And a lot of people think just doing a course is going to get you where you need to, getting that degree is going to get you. It's not. You have to put in the work to put yourself out there, to network, to market yourself, which is a very difficult thing to do. I still hate marketing. I don't want to make my personal brand. I don't want to have a personal brand. It is so uncomfortable to do, but it is very, very important.
Did you guys have anything to add to that portion?
I mean,
Very true. It's definitely
yeah. Do you want to go first, Steph?
Well,
I mean, where's the soapbox? Like,
yeah, the only part that I was going to include on top of that is, you know, that I think several of the talks actually mentioned along the lines of, you know, going out there and socializing with people, joining the culture itself is a great way to also push past that imposter syndrome. Because it's just like when I was on site at Wild West, one of the first conversations I had, like later in the day on day one, I had like a 45-minute conversation, and then I walked away from that like, oh, okay, maybe I do actually belong here. Like, yeah.
yeah, it's funny sometimes how much I will doubt myself, right? But then I have those little wins, and I'm like, wait, I do know what I'm talking about in this space, right? I think it's really important, a lot of things you just said too, and I don't want to mess up your name again. Rania? Rania. Okay, Rania. Thank you.
Chris didn't know it for a whole year.
I'm really gonna try hard here, right? Do you mind? Do you mind offering what branch you're in? I was in the Air Force, so
I was in the Army.
Okay, yeah. But being in this space and coming from the military background, like they definitely do not prepare you at all for. There's a lot of different programs out there, and you really got to fight and put yourself in. Like fight to go and push yourself to get the best out of those different programs to transition. But I can't tell you how many times I'm like, this person just came out of the military with the resume. So definitely tap into this. I didn't know you did all of this stuff, Chris, but those resume reviews and stuff, that really is important. I can't tell you how important it is to just have like a copy of what, they call it a master copy of what you're doing, what you do, but to take down those quantitative measurements and stuff so you can go and communicate that out. And asking those questions in the current position you're at. So asking your supervisor or trying to capture what you're doing to improve a process. It can take some courage to do that, to reach out. But you're advocating for yourself and improvement of your future. And it's taking that leap of faith and really, networking yourself in, removing the introvertedness and becoming that little extrovert when you need to. It goes a long way.
Yeah, I would definitely say there's so many programs for military members when they do transition out now, and they have so much stuff, but a lot of people don't know about it, because when I got out, the Army didn't have that. It was, do you want to stay in? Yes or no? And that was your exit counseling. Like, that was it. So military service members definitely have a leg up, but you do have to take the time to go and look for it and understand like how far in advance you need to be doing that and preparing. And it's the same with anything. You don't just graduate college and you're going to roll into a perfect thing. You have to be networking and preparing that resume before you graduate to have, that pathway of where you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I still regularly talk with when I'm hiring someone or looking to hire someone, and have to kind of take different candidates that might have a degree or might not have a degree, having, a certification of something that is high value. And it is a combination of, okay, they have a degree, they have a certification, but can they actually talk to that, right? How's their attitude? How do they present themselves? All that's really important. And there's a lot of teaching that goes on, I guess, both ways in my leadership chain. And I'm thankful that I have someone that listens to me, right? But I will advocate, like, I don't need to have someone have a degree in this space to have them on my team. I need them to just be able to do the work. Degrees, though, on the other hand, I'm not trying to diss anyone that does have a degree. So I do have a couple degrees, but it's really like, you just learn so much, and what can you bring to the table? So.
Yeah, and I figured this was a good spot to drop this in. So coming up on January 2nd, we have Rhonda coming up for talking about government work, pros and cons, advice to stay out of the gulag. I love the title, but veteran and very heavy on the government experience. So. Let's see here. But yeah, I think those are some really good sections to point out there. Let's see. So looking back over my notes, so as far as like the cultivating growth with Wade Wells, another thing he mentioned, one of the surprising parts that I found is that he also was talking about, based off that report and other data, in person is the best type of networking that you can do, but then also there's an issue with virtual. So like for somebody like myself, who I live in a very rural area, I have nothing else around me. All of my connections are through Discord, through LinkedIn, virtually. And like he had noted that can actually have a worse impact on your mental health, because you have that community to depend on, but then when you don't have that community, you're out and about or outside of your time on the computer or otherwise, you don't have that. And so it could have a even larger negative impact than if you had nothing at all to begin with. So I thought that was a little fascinating. It's still better than nothing, but you still have to watch that.
I'm not gonna lie, I hate going on social medias and stuff. I'm surprised I even saw the Discord message you sent me, but I'm glad you did. I do have to go though. I'll try to get into these a little more regularly and appreciate it. But gotta go eat. But y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you have a great evening. Bye. And I wanted to circle back around too. So this comment, the Pain mentioned that nothing turns me off more faster than when I realize they're only talking to me in hopes of gaining some advantage. So that was actually the key reason why Wade had mentioned we push for people to go out there and network, but we really should be positioning it as in, don't go out there to network, go out there to join the culture itself. Because he had mentioned at that same time that you'll get all of these different people going to these in-person meetups and they'll just be walking around with their resume out. That's the wrong mindset. You want to go there to join the culture itself.
Yeah, it's community building.
Yeah. Let's see here. And I'm going to drop the stage link again too, so I want everybody to feel comfortable to come up. So we went over the cultivating part.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Talk at once. I'd say one thing I do when I try to network online is before I send something out on LinkedIn, see what they're posting, if they're active, what they talk about, and if it's something that you mesh with or you're into, you want to learn more about. I try to make connections like that. Like, hey, I see you are an expert on this one subject and I find it really cool. Can you tell me about it or tell me some more about resources that I can look into? And I try to do that where you can have a conversation, show your knowledge or your interest, and then do something to build on it. So it's not just an empty, hey, connect with me.
And so like a perfect example of this would be like Steph over here, I know is very interested in the AI sector of compliance and so forth, it seems. It seems like you have been brushing up on that quite a bit at least. And, that's a pretty good, topic. And honestly, I was surprised at how many talks there were for AI. Like, especially considering everyone jokes about, AI everywhere, there were a lot of talks about AI.
Well, I mean, it's a hot issue because there's so little governance over it. And there's a lot of concerns and risk associated with it that companies are like, we're just not going to talk about it. We're just going to roll this feature out without telling you about any of the controls that you have over it, if you have any, or what we're doing with your data.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the biggest issues is that a lot of these businesses don't even actually understand it. And that's the worry. That's the real problem. They're like, oh, this is so awesome. We'll just throw it out there. Or, a vendor sells it off to them,
Yeah, the disconnect probably between the development and like sales and customer success. I definitely see that in working with vendors and having to ask them like, hey, how does this work? Can you show me a data flow diagram and explain to me like how data is being stored in a server or being processed in a server? Is it encrypted? What's happening? And they're like, let me get back to you on that.
Right. Was there a particular talk that you wanted to bring up? One of the other ones like related to AI was the 2 cyber guys and AI walk into a bar. I did not attend that in person, but I did watch it.
I wasn't able to watch a ton. I watched Jack's talk. I've been I'm getting ready to for a holiday vacation. So I've been pretty slammed at work trying to make sure that I'm good to leave. But I think my favorite AI talk that I went to is I went to 2 different ones. I went to the one with, she's from Black Hills and I can't remember what her name is now. And she did the talk on the washing machine spin cycle, AI spin cycle, something like that. And so that one was good, but a lot more like high level generalization. And then I went to the bigger one that you have on the list, the AI which I don't have it in front of me. It's the
AI assessment.
Yeah, with the AI is whatever it is. So I
don't even know how you're supposed to
proprietary framework to explain, and then along with I think he pulled out some NIST stuff as well, and like the difference between like how NIST isn't enough, and so he developed this other framework to help evaluate risk.
NIST is
That one was
always
pretty
enough.
interesting. I took a lot of pictures of that one.
Yeah.
Pretty insightful.
Yeah, and that tackling the AI spin cycle, a briefing on AI governance, laws, and tools, which that was from Kelly.
Yes, I went to that one.
Yeah. I did not catch that one, actually.
It was good.
Did you have anything else to add so far, PBO? I'm sorry there.
No, I was joking. NIST is always enough. That's all I have for her. NIST is always enough.
Well, if that was the case, you know.
That's always enough. We just don't apply right, and people don't want to do the big boy, the 853. So that's my 2 cents on it. But you know,
that's the solution to all of our problems, right?
I love this. It's a hammer. Just start nailing away, man. This is always enough.
Has the 853 implemented anything for AI?
Yeah, remember I did well, not 53, but remember NIST did the AI 100. I did a video on it. It's a little wiggle, it's a little spark. The bad part about NIST and the government is they make sure it's well baked in, so they're usually 5 years behind, right? They want to make, triple check everything. So that's probably the negative about NIST, because it's the government, so they don't want to do anything newfangled.
Yeah, and I don't have my notes up for that one that you were just mentioning too, Steph, because also during that talk for the AI assessment thing, they had thrown out multiple different frameworks, and there was one in particular that I had never heard of before from the DoD. I got to pull that up again real quick.
It's like out there.
Yeah, Space Tacos. So they are dripping these out onto the Wild West Hacking Fest YouTube channel. I believe they only have 2 videos out now, but they are starting to drip them out. What was that? I'm sorry. Let's see.
Hey, what was that? What was that government compliance? You trying to look that up, Chris? There's so many.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find it. Did you have anything to include on that talk in particular?
Is that to me or Steph?
To Steph. That talk was very jam-packed.
It was. I think for me, it's just nice to see different frameworks compared side to side, or side by side, because, and I don't work for a government agency, or for a very small company, a software company. We deal with financial information.
Okay.
So it's like we're pretty security focused. And then I had a big project that I've sort of wrapped up since. So I'm like not as inundated with like AI stuff. It was more of like nice to see different frameworks and different ways to approach those, just like how do you go about classifying the different types of risk, or like, I thought it was really interesting. Like, I think I remember him talking about how he didn't think that like proprietary, like privacy was as big of an issue that I think that it's a big issue, because he said that like entering stuff in, like, what are they going to do with the information about your application or something? But I was like, what if...
That's incorrect. I'm on your side. Because people taking stuff, they're cloning, they're creating dossiers of yourself, and they can... Yeah. People were taking out bank loans on second mortgages people didn't realize. So I'm with you on that. I don't think he's delving down into the nuances of that. And shout out to Chris. Me and Dwight had a killer privacy yesterday. I think we went off the rails. I lost half my audience because I did a privacy architecture yesterday. That started to be real big, and I never really thought about architecture in the form of a privacy. And people know I'm an AWS fanboy, so we were going through the AWS services that help with privacy and how they were actually doing it. The GDPR, a lot of people trying to make sure they separate their GDPR data, so they won't have to do all that European compliance. So I'm surprised how many third-party risk I used to read that's using GDPR language processing and all that. I was like, what are we doing, people? but now with you on privacy, I think that's the next big step, and I think a lot of people are missing it. and I'm a security guy, and I just kind of assumed security was covering privacy. And that definitely was a mistake on my part. But I think privacy, the nuances of privacy, people are hitting it more. Go ahead, Steph.
Oh, no, I was going to have you clarify. What did you say is the next big step?
I think privacy. We went from security to compliance, right? GRC, we're happening, but GRC just puts its toe into privacy. So we're compliant. We're compliant with GDPR, with CCPA, we New York DFR. That's not privacy, really. That's not getting to the nuances of privacy.
Jerry said something about this morning because he was talking about in jaw-jacking on the Venn diagram of like security and privacy meet a tiny bit in the middle. But you're right. Like, I'm not a privacy person. However, we're still responsible for protecting our customers' data, and part of that is privacy and maintaining privacy.
Because when you talk about security, we don't really get into opt-in, opt-out. We really don't talk about cookies. There's a lot of that privacy in there. Now, I got encryption down. I'm FIPS 140-2. I'm in this guy. We can talk about, but that don't talk about opting in. Now with GDPR, you have the right to delete. So if you build a big warehouse, especially AWS, you can have that piece of data in 10 different locations. You got to be able to find it. So I think that's where the privacy link people are missing. So I'm trying to change my
it's tricky in the US because we're all dealing with just state by state laws. Like, you can say, you can GDPR it all you want. No one's holding you to that unless you're in a state that has specific private. Like, we have I tell people this all the time with the lack of federal privacy laws, and they're shocked. I'm like, you don't know that, like, you should read these privacy agreements to make sure that you know what, none of us read terms of use and agreements, and none of us 100%. Read privacy policies. I mean, they had a South Park about it like 15 years ago with Human Centipede. Like, what are you getting yourself into here? Like,
no, sure. But I think the part, like you said, where we're missing at it is, like you said, it's not a federal compliance thing from a federal level. Either breach notification either. That's one of my big things. We should have a federal breach notification is. Once again, with that opt-in, opt-out, and I think customers are going to start paying maybe a little more attention to privacy. So I think that's why I think people are kind of digging into it, because with AI, people are going to start doing a lot more novel security attacks. It's going to really, I think, delve more into privacy than really security. So
yes, that's one of my biggest concerns. I look at AI and I'm like, okay, prompt injections, whatever, like, data poisoning. But like, the privacy part is the thing that if you can trick it into giving away information, like, it's breaching it and having like people not disclosing, companies not disclosing, like, where is all this data and how much of it are you saving off? And like, what are you going to do? Like, when your stuff's breached? Like,
we talked about that, and me and Dwight had a discussion. He's real big on privacy. I love the young guy, but I'm like, I live in the real world. The business make money on that. We could talk about data minimization, but Facebook, Google, and Snapchat makes $1 billion on excess data. So you're gonna be in the room telling them not to do that, young man, you're gonna get fired.
I don't think anybody right now is going to be telling companies not to do these things.
I do, and everybody frown up. I'm old school though. I'm DOD. I just tell people, I work for you. I need to say it one time and get off my chest, and the business can overrule me. It's your risk. It's your money. I just need to say it, so I feel good at night. I'm not gonna fight you. I'm gonna salute the flag, but I'm gonna say it one time. We should not be doing this, but let's roll. Because y'all pay me. I need my direct deposit ASAP. Let's go.
Well, so Professor Black Ops, you work a lot with like federal government contracting and stuff?
Yeah. I was at DOD for 10 years and I was at the state. My specialty is NIST, the agency. I specialize in IRS data. Go ahead.
I want to ask you a speculative question.
Yeah,
do you think any of these like rules will change very much with a different administration? Like, I've been seeing a huge uptick in like due diligence requests from our customers because of the SEC new rules and regulations. I'm just curious if you think the incoming administration will continue down the same path, or if we'll see them come back.
Yeah. The only problem is, because they're definitely a minimization. I think they're going to try to fire a lot of federal employees. The big thing, and this is the government's a big deal to move, and he's only got 4 years to try to move it. So that's kind of my only pushback on that. Because even if you install the new guy, a lot of that stuff he's going to try to do, and they're going to sue him. That they're lining up to sue, and people forget there's a union for government employees, so you got to break the union. So that's not an easy thing to do. So I think if he had maybe 8 years, I don't think JD Vance is as far as right as him. So I think if he leaves 4, I think once Musk gets his efficiency in, I think he's going to swing back to middle because he makes his money on government contracts. So we can't get too crazy with that. We funding, but that's my speculation. Back to you, right? So
I was curious.
Yeah. So a lot of people are worried because they're talking about slashing a lot of. They're talking about getting rid of the Department of Education by itself. So, but we tried to kill a project and it took us like 6 years to try to kill it when I was at DOD. But I don't know. Maybe if you got both houses and you got the Supreme Court, maybe you can move a little quicker. I just don't see it. That's part of the checks and balances of the government people don't like. It's supposed to be hard to do radical movement, right? So that's the kind of checks and balances. It kind of forces you back in the middle, but he might have a mandate too. Go ahead, Chris. He might have a mandate too. They saying we got a mandate. So that's the interesting part. Back to the host, Chris.
So especially along those lines, as far as like changes coming up or otherwise, I think especially in this field, we should all be aware that there's often like fear tactics involved, like, oh my God, the world's going to end kind of thing. We see that with AI and a lot of other things too. And that's kind of like my outlook on it. Like, I find it hard to really stress about something until, there's actual evidence that it's actually going to happen. And like PBO saying, like, I feel like that's right on point because the government moves so slow in the first place. So, yeah.
So we've been talking about flying cars for 50 years, right? So people forget how long it really took us to get. I did work from home 25 years ago, but COVID actually made it really possible, right? So people think all these changes are quick, but if you look over time, they're really brutally slow. People forget. I'm old enough. I remember the first cell phone was $10,000, right? 30 years later, homeless people have it, right? But it took 30 years for that transition to happen. So, but like I said, I'm old. So.
And I dropped that link as well. So the Department of Energy has that AI risk management playbook that was shared during that talk, which I think is an amazing resource. I found it pretty interesting to skim through. They have all kinds of different like recommended mitigations.
The other weird thing from the Department of Energy, and I'm just going to throw this out here, we talked about is, it took me a long time to realize the biggest data centers we have doesn't have enough power to run AI. So they actually starting up nuclear power plants. That, I don't know. I'm old, so I'm like, 3 Mile Island almost killed the planet, man. Do we want to do this? So I don't know. That's a weird, when you go to energy, and I just always think, wait, we got computer power. We can do anything. We're woefully short for power to really do AI. So that's the other part. People think, oh yeah, we don't have enough power, man. We got to start up nuclear power plants.
That's a really good point. And then they're talking about quantum computing chips, and it's like, where are you going to get all this energy to run these quantum computers? And I've seen so many fear-mongering videos about how like the dangers of quantum computing, and I like look at, then you look it up and you're like, we're not even anywhere near like being scared of this yet. Like, and where is all this power going to come from?
That's what things. And I used to work for a data center, and when I went down there, half of it wasn't filled, and I was like, oh, we just gonna throw racks up. He's like, nah, man, we gotta go get a whole nother something, and we gotta step it down. We gotta contact the city. I'm like, we can't just run some extension cords and plug them. Like, nah, man, power don't work like that. Because you just think power because you got it in your house and so relevant. It doesn't work like that. So I think that always kind of catches me off guard because AWS and Azure, we got football field. Just that, I guess what blows my mind, that's not even close to enough power, really. That's the reason ChatGPT sold to Microsoft, because they couldn't afford those data centers to spin up.
And that was actually mentioned during one of these talks as well. So During the two cyber guys and AI walk into a bar, and so that was Derek Banks and Goff Fire, I believe is the right pronunciation for that. They went into a really, really great deep dive. And so I'm going to provide this full list in our Discord server, and I'll probably publish it during one of the upcoming meetings as they roll out these videos on YouTube. But they did an amazing deep dive on the history of AI. And like they mentioned, like 1997 with long-term, short-term model, which is like necessary for all of the AI models that we know of. But they also mentioned, and they show a amazing diagram, because one of the key things that I also noted with that is they were actually saying that they do not recommend that we should be publishing the research data for AI. The United States keeps publishing all of this research data, and other competitors like China is pulling that, and China has more than 100 times or 100% more capability on power abilities than we do. And so the graph that they show, I don't have it on hand, but they have a lovely graph that shows how much literal energy, electricity that China can produce compared to the United States. And that's our limits really at this time, that and our manufacturing. So I found that really fascinating to look at it from that perspective.
The crazy thing, guess who was studying AI in 1993?
Was it you?
TVO?
I was doing Prolog, but it
would
wasn't.
have been it.
It was
the next big.
The crazy thing is, we was trying to run it on a 286 chip, and it was like, this shit ain't gonna never fit. I didn't think it was gonna ever fit. Look up Prolog. That's one of the first languages. So we were doing it because I'm a Star Trek person. We do it. One simple thing took like 10 hours, man. You would go back to bed and have to wake up on a fax machine to get one little answer. I'm like, yeah, this is the stupidest shit I've ever seen. Oh yeah, you just got to think Moore's law. Moore's law didn't sink in. I should have waited, roll it out for another 10 years, then I would have been ready. So that's the crazy part about it.
Yeah, and let me see if I can pull this image somehow. I'll just share the notepad. So yeah, for anybody who prefers dark mode, cover your eyes. But let me see here. But so I just wanted to show this graph too. So this is one of the screenshots that I ended up taking from it as well. And so I wanted to bring this up here because they were talking about like the whole history of AI itself from the very beginning, and amazing deep dive. And they were talking about what AI really is, the machine learning aspect that then turns into AI.
Yeah.
At the base level, you take data and predictions, you throw it into a black box that has a bunch of mathematics, and then it spits stuff out. Is the basic level of what we're actually dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought the way that they explained that was pretty good. And then there's also this other one here as well. And so this is the notable models. And you could see over the years, it might be a little bit hard to see on the screen here. Hopefully you guys can see that. But so 2010 all the way up until 2014, and you could see this bar here on all the different models that came out and like their computing capability for training. So pretty scary.
Yeah, the other part of that is, and I'm trying to really get my foot in that, the security of AI is kind of, when you talk about data models, large models, and just the amount of data you sucking into that, data lakes and all that, how do you secure that, right? When you got your model in, and hey, shout out to AWS, they kind of to the forefront to walk you through how to secure it, but that's actually a different level of security. And that pipeline is definitely a little different.
Hey, Luke, catch me outside. How about that?
Yeah, just big Python scripts. That is incorrect. But yeah, it's just different, something new. Most companies aren't really running AI at that. They're actually running third parties, software that's using AI, which, like Steph said, is a little more scary because now you got to figure out how to put that in your third party assessment to figure out the security.
Fourth party, right? And so when you're looking at you're filling out a SIG or something, and you're like, oh, are you using fourth and nth parties with your data? You're like, great. Well, how do I know that? And now I have to go back to all my third party vendors and try to untangle all this. And I always ask that and that's why I was working on a third-party vendor like AI assessment, because I want to be asking when we're doing third-party vendor assessments, like I want them like right away to tell me about who are you developing your own AI model, or are you using open AI? And then what access, like what are the rules with what open AI gets to do with this data?
Do they tell you that?
Usually they do.
Okay. I'm surprised they tell you that. Most people, because that's kind of putting their toe in their secret sauce. So I'm surprised they tell you.
It's a little convoluted. Like they have to tell you if they've developed their own AI model or not. And then most of the time they'll tell you, and then I try to dig into it a little bit further, just depending on if it's like a core application, like if it's something we're using in our application, or if it's just something we use internally.
People think I'm trying to use the proper word. I don't want to use bigger, but that's why I use large companies that has federal compliance, because then that takes. I still got to dig in, but it makes it a lot easier because they understand the game, they understand the documentation. A lot of them have SOC 2 Type 2s, FedRAMP stuff, but you still have to dig in the AI piece, right? But
you do, because that's not part right now
right,
of a lot of third-party assessments. I can tell you, as someone that's undergone SOC 2 recently.
I hate SOC 2 Type 2. I hate SOC Type 2. Go ahead and finish. I hate SOC 2 Type 2. Number one, it's an accounting firm. Every time I dig in, it's an agreement between them and the accounting firm, and they leave all the stuff out I need because it's weak on their part.
Well, it really depends on who you get as your auditor and whether.
I think
how strict they are, and there's a lot of variability in it for sure.
You paying them, so they're gonna do what you told them to do. But that's my 2 cents. Well, go ahead, Chris. That's my 2 cents.
So while we're talking about like AI, third, fourth party usage and so forth and everything, I thought this was a really good thing that they also mentioned. So I kind of hate throwing this out there for everybody. However, I think it's very fascinating. And so there's this website, this company that's called dropzone.ai, and this is for tier 1 SOC analysts, 100% anonymous or AI based. And so you just configure them, they go through your server logs, and automagically, as I saw in one of their marketing materials, goes through and actually triages the tier 1 or escalates to tier 2, which I find really interesting. And so it starts at about $24,000 per year per bot, basically, at the fundamental level. But this is the kind of stuff that I see becoming more popular as time goes on, and this, I believe, takes it to a whole new level as far as the security end comes when it has that kind of level of access.
This kind of stuff scares me.
Yeah, my thing is,
and it should.
My thing is, and I don't know what Steph is, our developers, I have to watch them, because when they cut their debugging up high, Social Security numbers start popping up in the logs. So now I got PII in my logs, and you sucking them into the internet. So now where are my PII? Is it in their model, or is they using it all models to come up with something cool from different clients, right? So those are the kind of things, which I know that's what they're doing. But then now I got to be especially careful in my logs, because I see a lot of PII end up in logs when developers are trying to debug their code, because you can cut it up to different levels. And I'm like, dude, you can never cut it up to 5, because our logs is going into AI, man. You'll have to bring that data over to a development and figure it out.
And I think another big misconception is the fact that, like, even if you have a contract with like OpenAI, that they won't use it for training their AI model, that doesn't mean that they don't record it. That's like one of the biggest concerns. They still have that information. You're still sending it to them.
Yes.
So
it's you don't want them training it, and you also need to know how much of that data they're storing, for how long are they storing it, like what is the security around it. And there's very few companies that have white papers that are built out enough for any type of information to give you a good enough picture, because I just don't think enough people care about it at this point. But even if it's just a chat bot or something, like if you are dumping data, you just don't know if you're communicating with the customer and they're like asking it questions. I don't know. It's still sort of Wild West in terms of regulations.
And that's what's so concerning right now.
Yeah, but that's the way it usually is, though, when you first start out. So we're very careful about what data we're putting into any AI or any products we're using that use AI. So
Agreed. That is what you have to do. You have to really try to sanitize as much as you can. Like I'm looking at in 2025 releasing stuff to my end users and my team on like best practices with like we already sort of have it, but we're still developing like our like terms like of you like our own acceptable use policy. That's the word I was looking for right, because it's so new and you feel like last 2 years you see this explosion in companies integrating these AI models in where you really don't have a choice. It's like there and people can turn it on and they're like, we're just using this now, here it is, and you're like, well, but you didn't tell us anything about like how this works and like what data you're ingesting and then what are you doing with it. I even have concerns with products like Grammarly.
Oh, 100%.
I know
it's taking in all of that data. Like it's got access to everything you're saying. You're communicating with
one
customers.
of the big things I saw with Grammarly is that you have to have like 300 or 400 users on the enterprise edition for it not to use for training data. Is one of the big things that I saw early on, at least early on. Maybe they changed it by now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they hadn't. And I think this is a good pivot to this question here. So AI tools to bridge the gap between IT and GRC. I think there's a lot of AI tools already rolled out in a lot of these products already. So even like in Microsoft 365, even if you don't see it, up in your face.
Oh, it's up in your face. No, but you can hit AI on every screen you're on. Do you want to use AI? No, man. You want to use? Yeah, it's up in your face.
Especially be really careful with all that back end stuff of what you're doing, the tools that you're choosing to use for those types of things. Like you just want to be really careful. I'm not aware of a ton of tools because I don't want to use. I don't think we're at a place yet where it's wise to use tools like Vanta that like use AI to help you complete stuff. Like, so it's just, I don't have any suggestions for AI tools like that because I don't really feel like I'm in a place at our company where we're like super ready to adopt those tools that are accessing so many of our like proprietary and confidential materials.
Yeah, I think that's a great position to have too, especially at this current point in time where we're still struggling just to figure out how to manage it. Why would we be rolling this stuff out when we don't even know how to properly manage it across the org?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's see.
But hey, I'm gonna drop off. I'm gonna go home. I'm still at the office. So thanks for having me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming up.
I will try to come to this more often. So really great.
I appreciate your time. You have a great evening.
You too. Bye, Professor Black Ops. You're awesome as well.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, bye.
GBO. Let's go ahead and drop that in chat again too. I see Rania came back up on stage here for a moment. And I dropped that link for the stage if anybody else wants to come up. I definitely want everybody to feel comfortable. You do not have to turn on your video, but if you just want to join the conversation directly, I'm trying to keep up with chat here as well. So the stage for everyone, that allows you to actually come up here and talk on the live stream. So before, what we were doing is we had like the Google Meetup where we would all pile in there and then live stream it to YouTube. We ended up converting over to Restream just because it makes the production way easier and a lot smoother. So, and then people just have to click on the link to come up. Let's check this out. I think there was another question that I had missed. So AB Showtime also mentioned, I also think of how to audit AI decisions in GRC. Maybe my question is completely wrong.
I also think of that's what that this AI 100 was talking about. Two is, and we talked about that. That's a separate AI credit score, if you can get a loan or not. Who gets to review it? We thought we should put it on the blockchain and have a third-party auditor like we do with 3PL for FedRAMP to be able to review those AI decisions and those AI models. So from a federal level, or kind of like when the SEC comes in and audit the company if they think you're doing something wrong. So I was on another channel Maybe we need to do that on this channel, Chris. Kind of break that down from I call that tech societal big decisions. So that's one thing. Put on the blockchain and have an independent thing. You know, we could be making decisions. You know, where you located at, where you from. You know, what you look like, type thing. So who gets to verify that? Or we just trust big companies. So that's
right. Yeah, and I want to do a shout out to Amish Runaway and then also Jay. So welcome to the party, pals. And yeah, so the stage is completely open. It always has been, always will be. So it's all about community here, learning and growing together, sharing our knowledge. We all come from different backgrounds and you know, have different takes and perspectives and so forth. And that's what, you know, helps everybody out. Let's see. But yeah, there's a couple other things too that we could pivot to. So let's see. So what would be another great one? So we covered like the Dawn of Enlightenment from Jerry, his keynote at Wild West Hacking Fest, about how there's so much information nowadays, and you know that's not how it was 20, 30 years ago. Back then there was like magazines, but it was so hard to actually practice, and the internet was completely different, very isolated and slow to respond. We mentioned about like cultivating growth with Wade Wells, which was the closing keynote, about joining the culture rather than networking, social isolation with digital communities, just promoting health and mental awareness. There was a great report that I had shared earlier. I'm going to go ahead and drop that report in chat again too. So that is one of the main reports that he had cited on his keynote from Wade Wells. Oh, and also another couple. So when that video drops, I'll definitely share that in the Discord for Wade Wells's talk, Cultivating Growth and Connection, because also he developed not only the social attack framework, but then also the pyramid of social pains were two of the highlights from that talk as well. We can also talk about Hack the Boardroom, which was Jack Scott's talk about like presenting and talking with the boardroom itself. I know PBO loves OKRs. So objectives and key results. Let's see. Oh yeah, and FedEx was there too, I think. Oh no, so FedEx had to attend virtually, unfortunately. What type of GRC software programs do you know about and or use, PVO?
It's funny you mentioned it.
Archer.
Yeah, I don't want to say where I currently work, but I've used. It's weird. Either I'm using some super expensive, or we're using a spreadsheet. I've done Archer, Open Pages, Audit Board. I think those are probably the bigger ones I've used. Archer is the 800-pound gorilla, but it has everything in it. If you can get it set up correctly, it's beautiful, but we always struggle to get it set up. So those are the ones I've used. Me and Chris was talking about maybe reaching out and see if we can get something from that Chris Cummings can use and get a discount to maybe use. I don't think Archer's gonna donate anything. So we were using,
like, nah.
We were using the French guys. What was their stuff? You know, I didn't like they were from France, but go ahead. I didn't like they were from France, but go ahead.
Hey, at least it's open source.
It is.
I mean, that's something.
It is.
Yeah, I think audit. So like, with a lot of the people that I've talked to so far, audit board seems way more popular than I thought. But I think that's also because of the pricing.
Yeah, because most people can't afford Archers, so your next thing is going to be audit board.
Audit board, like in between.
Yeah, Open Pages, I think, is IBM. We struggle. We can get that to work well. I've been toying around, and I've done a couple of videos where I told you I was playing around Office 365. I sent you that one guy's videos with the 24 applications or something in there you can use. So I put together a couple of videos, and I had about 10 people connect me and ask me if that was production worthy. I'm like, nah, man, that ain't even lab worthy. That's YouTube worthy. So there's a lot of people out there looking for stuff. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and there's a lot of different stuff out there. So let's see. So some of the key takeaways that I had from Jack Scott's talk about hack the boardroom. So definitely assume that they don't understand security. Focus on business impact and key points. So, it's not that you have to like dumb it down. That's not the right perspective to have. You just have to avoid jargon. And this is actually a perfect spot to bring this up. So I think this is a video that we should all take a look at right quick. Let me go ahead and pull this over here. So this is a video that she did present during her talk, which I think is a great example. Let me double check that I'm actually sharing this properly for the audio. All right. So this is the example that she provided as far as jargon goes.
Here at Rockwell Automation's world headquarters, research has been proceeding to develop a line of automation products that establishes new standards for quality, technological leadership, and operating excellence. With customer success as our primary focus, work has been proceeding on the crudely conceived idea of an instrument that would not only provide inverse reactive current for use in unilateral phase detractors, but would also be capable of automatically synchronizing cardinal gram meters. Such an instrument, comprised of Dodge gears and bearings, Reliant electric motors, Allen Bradley controls, and all monitored by Rockwell software, is Rockwell Automation's Retro-Encabulator. Now basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative...
All right, so we don't have to watch the whole 2-minute video, but this gives you a really good idea. And this is what I love so much of Jack's throwing this in there, because it's a really good example of what the more technical people in the field sound like to a board member or C-suite or the average everyday person of when we start throwing out different terminology, firewalls, EDR, RMF, like all kinds of different language out there that people just don't get. So it's not that you have to dumb it down, you just have to change your terminology.
We talked about that at the boardroom. Talk about the business function, and your tech supports that business function, even if it's technology, database, firewalls. Like our number one thing was collecting state revenue. So that anything affecting that business function, we say you couldn't take state revenue. If it's an Oracle database, web server, app server, or even the RMF, what risk is going to prevent you from collecting tax revenue?
Oh, I think you're talking Amish Runaway. I think you're talking about a hat of some sort. No, I just have like the background on and then my hair parted. I think that's what you're referring to. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, we have definitely talked about that before, and I think it's something that's going to keep being discussed. I think it's really difficult for people to step away from that. I mean, I've even seen you in your videos, PBO, on just dropping that lingo.
Oh yeah, I'm bad about it.
Just because of all the years.
I'm bad about it. Unless I'm actually sitting in a boardroom meeting or talking to a C-suite, my default, because that's the people I usually deal with, I'm gonna jargon it out, man. I'm jargon it out, but I'm glad you mentioned that. Maybe I need to switch it up a little bit more in my video. But yeah, because that's the baseline language we talked about at work. So we had a very fiery discussion about that. So
yeah, and then Space Tacos found the updated video for that. I just think that's such a great example of how it comes out. Another couple key things that she also mentioned throughout that is always provide a solution and at least 2 options with a recommendation. So when you're presenting to C-suite or otherwise, there's some type of goal. And so an overarching portion was, you have to position the what, the so what, and what's next. I think that's absolutely a great framework basically to follow. So what is the problem? Why does it matter? And then what do we do about it?
But that's why we talk about.
I think your microphone changed, PBO.
Did it change?
I think so.
Am I sounding funny or what?
Yeah, there's just like sounds more like a.
What does it sound like?
It sounds more like a studio.
Did it sound like that before?
No, it just swapped over.
Let me see. I didn't change anything. Let me see what's going on with my mic. Oh, no, that's my Yeti communication Yeti.
I think it's me, or maybe it could be Rania too.
Rania, mute Rania. Yeah, that's Rania. Yep, that's Rania with that background.
Bam. Problem found.
Rania found like she was in there by a waterfall or something. I thought that was. I heard that too.
All right. Well, now
come back, Rania. We just want to know where that's coming from.
Yeah, she can come back up if she'd like.
Does that sound better?
Much
Not
better.
At all.
Yep.
Perfect.
You're good. Much better.
Okay. Yeah, it kicked my mind.
Were you going to add?
I was going to talk about where the business side of that, I always got told, and I would tell everyone else, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions.
Fast.
So, when I was making decisions with aircraft, I don't want to hear your problems. I want to know a method to fix it, and I'll get you what you need to make that happen. But we need to have an end solution before, I don't want to just hear complaints. And that was a lot of the military. Everyone had problems, but no one wanted to come up with a way to fix it. So it is very big, especially when you're talking to C-suite and you're, thinking about $1 million, several thousand, tens of $1,000 decisions. You definitely, you don't want to have only one answer. You want to be able to give them options. So that's definitely some key insight from Jax.
Yeah, the same thing. Because I was at DOD, he just tell me, "Hi, Tyler, don't drop a turd on my desk, man. You need to come up with some solutions." But once again, that's why we got to kind of stick our toe in technically, because most of those options, even from a compliance point, is probably some technical solution that the technology guys. So when you're talking to them, you got to get a couple solutions to come to them that you can comply with, that you can take to the C-suite, right? So.
Yeah, and we'll touch on this other question here in a moment, AB. But also another key part that she also mentioned during her talk, and you guys are going to hear me wrong, but clock blockers. So clock blockers.
Be careful. Go ahead. Be careful.
So as Jax has stated, is focus on clock blockers in such a fact that, what is going to affect the business operations, the business objectives and mission. That's what what is going to have the largest impact. And I feel like in the GRC space, that is our push, our primary objective is to align those business goals. But I think it's still something to, always just keep in your back pocket and keep in mind. So.
And two, I think as you become more a senior person, like Rania said, is that helps you come up with more solutions, more technical solutions, even more compliant solutions. Then you can bring that to the technical people and ask them questions.
Yeah. Yeah, and so AB here is asking, is AI inching in closer, possibly harmonizing global cybersecurity compliance standards?
No.
I think it's making it more complex.
Yes, and the reason the reason why from a federal perspective is NIST is great, but they're always 2 or 3 years behind because they want to make sure it's baked in. They're not doing anything novel, and I'm putting AI into something novel and new and that's why if you look at NIST, they still on AI 100. All right, they haven't really delved into. Now they got some nice white papers, but them baking that into the NIST 800. No.
And I think there's too many flavors of AI. No one subscribes to one singular model. You know, everyone can create their own training, own data that they pull in there. It definitely makes it more complex. And I think monetary comes into it. You know, anything with a solid background in data and traceability is probably going to cost the company, you know, buku money to implement it. And you can implement it in different ways.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday, me and Dwight, and I kind of push back on the other side is privacy data minimization is big. That's how they make money on data. Facebook makes $1 billion a quarter. I've never bought anything off of Facebook, so they're not going to let you minimize data if that's how they make money, right? So what you're asking for is actually polar opposite against the business. You're trying to minimize data. They're trying to get more data as possible. So they can come up, okay, you buy popcorn and you own a Lexus, right? So we were talking about that. So we can sell you, I don't know, a popcorn machine and a Lexus. Hell, who knows? But they need more data to come up with that type of analysis, to come up with that type of correlation of. So you need more data to do that, not less data. That's the polar opposite of privacy. Because one of the tenets of privacy is right to know and right for you to do business. If that's not in your business, you shouldn't collect their data. But they're collecting data to create a business, right? So that's my 2 cents in my soapbox.
Yeah, I think even within my workspace, you know, they're making big money decisions off of who has the better AI integrated into the technology for automation purposes. And, you know, for that, it's a cost-cutting measure, but I don't think there's any thought process for protecting that, or, you know, how AB brought up earlier, like checks and balances on the AI, you know.
Well, I think well, in the company I work for, we think about protecting the data. We just don't think about the privacy of the data, right? So if you got it, we want to encrypt it. We want you to hash it before you send an AI. It's got to read the hash. But we're not doing data minimization. We're not letting you opt out. We're not letting you opt in. You don't have the right to delete, right? All those are privacy things. So I think we do talk about security. I mean, if you as a mature company, that's my first thing. I got my security belly wig, but once again, like I was talking with Dwight, I'm just now thinking about the security piece of that. When I bring it up, everybody frowns up. But once again, I'm kind of a mature guy, so I always got my security hat on. Okay, we're doing encryption, or how are we doing KMS keys? We were talking about KMS keys. Now you can get a document, an attestation. So what process is reading it, it's got to read the right key to be able to read it, and it's got to come from the United States. I mean, AWS got a ton of those features, but once again, that's a mature company. But I think, chime in, Ronnie, I think we kind of got the security piece. I think we at least talk about security. I don't even really see people talking about privacy as much.
Yeah, and well, I mean, the privacy is the antithesis of AI.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah.
But I think the maturity is an important keyword in that. You know, you can have a large company and not be mature.
Oh, 100%.
So yeah, it does depend on the company and the internal workings and the knowledge that they have there. So it's definitely an afterthought where I'm at. They implemented their first like automation and upgraded from what they've been doing for the past 20, 30 years.
The cool thing, Rania, is as you put your imprint on the organization, we call it, which you know, military, we call it turning a battleship. When we first got out the state, they were nutting. 4 years later, we in there, we're like, oh yeah, we got to make sure they do encryption. They start saying the stuff we said it because we asked them those same questions every time they found a piece of software. We just kept drilling it. So now before they come to us, they're like, okay, we know we at least got to get these basic questions asked, right? So I think you just got.
Yeah, and I wanted to just take a moment to also do a shout out for PBO. So I dropped the link in chat again, but PBO is always streaming right now, like at least twice a week. So Tuesdays is his primary, and then I think Wednesdays is when he's doing AWS. You're at $7.99. So your next video is going to be, video 800 now.
Yeah.
Bam.
Dwight asked me if I was going over Christmas or not, so I probably do Tuesday. But you will like this. I think I'm going down to one video because I'm really going to start focusing on that course because I've been kind of burnt out and kind of sick. Now I'm kind of back, so I'm going to really dig into the course.
Well, and so some insider knowledge here too. So if you go over to the playlist, then you'll also see this government compliance for cybersecurity. And that is where like all of the good stuff really is. So not only is there a bunch of different stuff in here for different framework standards and so forth, but also this is where PBO has been going through all of the NIST family groups too.
Yeah.
So we have media protection for the 853, physical and environmental planning, program management, and so forth. You've got to be almost halfway through now, right?
Yeah, I'm more than half. I'm actually a little more over half. I think it's 20 families. I think I did 13 yesterday. I got to go back and count. So yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a little celebration on the next video. Number 800. Woo!
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna pull this up here too. So AB was asking, did Wild West Hacking Fest discuss AI ethics? If they did, do you think that those ethic discussions will influence regulatory approaches? So at Wild West Hacking Fest, there was a lot of different talks about AI. There were a couple different ones about deepfakes. And some of the different tool usage for that, AI risk. They all kind of touched on the ethics standpoint of such, especially the deepfake, but not really on the regulatory side. So I think we are still way behind where we should be for the regulations, especially around deepfakes in particular. But you also have like the voice vishing, AI as well. So that you're already seeing in practice, actually. So not only did James McQuiggan, but there was also another one. Let me go ahead and pull up the name real quick, because I did not attend James McQuiggan's doppelganger deepfake. I did watch the replay of it, though. But there was another one called Demystifying Deepfakes. I cannot pronounce the name offhand, but let me go ahead and drop her LinkedIn in chat. So I'll go ahead and pull that up real quick. She did an amazing talk about demystifying deepfakes, ended up sharing a bunch of different resources to detect AI, but then also, some went into detail about how the deepfakes are also made, and like some touched on like the ethical standpoint. What's your hot take on the regulatory landscape for AI?
Me and Ryan.
Both of you.
Go ahead, Ryan.
We'll duke it out. I don't think anything talked about at Wild West Hacking Fest is going to influence regulatory compliance of the EU or Asia. They definitely have their own plans. And I feel like EU is probably up there at the top of the tier for data privacy and regulatory compliance. And I think, if anything, other people will mirror that. I don't see Asia really going along the data privacy route. They have their own initiatives as well.
Yeah, and so it doesn't look like we have Dwight tonight, but Dwight does have some information on the Asia aspect, because I believe there is a certification for their privacy through AIPP. So they do have some privacy laws itself, but yeah, I don't think it's going to affect it at all per se, because that's when you get into like the whole political landscape as far as like the regulations as well.
Yeah, I agree with Rania. My only little pushback is China and Japan. They have a plan for their privacy, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's private, but it's private to the government, right? They get all.
And that's what I mean. Their own.
I know. Yeah, 100%.
What is the Chinese firewall.
Yeah, the cool thing about that is the good and the bad thing about it is it's bad that they do it as good because they're gonna take every person's information in the whole country and do what they want to do. So they be at the cutting edge. A lot of times we got full rules and some regulation. Ain't nothing stopping them dudes. They just do what they want. So I think a lot of times they're on the cutting edge because they're just breaking every privacy law because, like Ryan said, that they don't have any privacy because it all goes to
they have their own initiative.
Right.
And I think it's a cultural difference. You know, America privacy versus EU privacy are two completely different things. You know, you'll get pushback from a person when they have to put their data into something in the EU, whereas, you know, it's 50-50 if you get that in the United States. Whereas, you know, Asia, it's again, you know, their cultural thing is more government centric. They don't have to deal with all of the different countries like EU does, or the different state standards like the United States does. It's more difficult to compare those two, like Western to the Eastern, China to, or, you know, Asia and all that to EU and US and stuff like.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're behind, but we always behind, right? The business goes out front, then we try to figure out then we do regulations, right? That's kind of been our historical cat and mouse games with that. So I think we're right on track to that. So it'll be interesting because I think the new administration is, I ain't gonna say anti-regulation, but they're for smaller regulation. So that's gonna be more interesting to see if you get different types of apps doing different types of things. So that's funny. I was going to tell you to get that question. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so also I could probably do a better job with it, but if you guys do have questions, just leading it with a Q and colon, it just kind of helps point it out a little bit. But yeah, no worries whatsoever. I try to keep up with the chat as much as possible. But yeah, welcome to the party, Chef, by the way. And so I have a question for Study GRC or PBO. Everyone says that a good way to get experience is to audit your own PC. Do an assessment on your PC, do a vulnerability scan on your own network. How do you do that? PBO needs some lab videos.
Yeah, I think Space Taco says she Googled and they all came up. So I'm gonna give it to Space Taco. There are a ton of those out there. Me, I wouldn't personally do that. I kind of like what Chris and Caesar did a while back when they were running their own assessment for a small company. That didn't quite gain traction like I thought that would. I thought that was a better case to actually do that because they were doing policies and procedures from a small companies and they were doing some SOPs and different type things. I think, which is more of a lab type feel for that. And hopefully, I'm not telling anybody to buy my course, but Chris is helping me with some slides and I'm working on my GRC course. And the capstone in that course is to run through a small company assessment policies and procedures. I'm going to do cloud formation so you can set up a small AWS instance for about $5 a day. It'll have like one EC2 on both things. They have their thing called AWS Inspector and AWS Config. You can scan them and it'll come up with some findings and kind of walk through how you would mitigate them. So I probably try to go ahead, Chris.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, so also go ahead and hit me up on Discord, Chef, as well to remind me. But I recall some Black Hills information security videos out on YouTube that walk you through some of those processes and tools to use for that. Because a really good example of that is you could set up if you're able to, you could set up a VM on your own computer, and then you could actually scan that virtual machine and get a risk assessment back. There's also a really cool tool. I don't remember it offhand, but I could definitely drop those in the Discord too. Just reach out to me to remind me. So with Ubuntu, Ubuntu Pro, you can get a free license for an individual for up to 5 devices. And so like what I did is I set up Ubuntu Pro on a virtual machine, and then there's a tool for CIS checks, and it'll actually go through and develop a report for you based on CIS IG 1, 2, or 3, whichever one you select. It's a really great lab. It's actually something we should do in a live stream. It's just not something I've gotten around to yet. And also another thing that I've seen too is I've talked to people who signed up for Qualysys free trial and scanned their own networks or devices as well. And then you take that report and then you could develop like a final report and break it all down.
Then 2 is part of that is, we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about on my channel, Chris's channel, it'll be in the course because I don't want to charge everything. Part of a finding is how you're going to fix it. You can fix it by fixing it, implement it. Active Directory wasn't using some type of encryption. You put encryption on it. The other part is the business can accept that risk. That's a risk assessment, right? So you can accept the risk or you can have a risk exception. So there's a couple ways to do that finding. So going through a program and looking at those 3 different ways, which is closed, you fixed it, you accepted a risk, you had a risk exception, or you had a risk exception. Oh, you do a poem, you're gonna fix it next quarter when you get some money. All right. So we're gonna go through those the normal things when you run through a security program and what that looks like. Back to you.
And so I just dropped the link to this too. And so this is actually something that I posted in the Team SC Red Team channel this morning. And so I have heard a lot of people asking for like legitimate security reports and so forth. And a lot of that is never public. There was a really good GitHub repo that I saw that had a collection of them too that I got to find again. But so like this is a recent report for Molvad VPN where they had a app security audit. And this is the public report, which is almost completely like they have everything in here. And I think this is a really good example of like what a final report should look like too, to give you a little bit of an idea. So like they talk about the threat model, the methodology, the findings overview, recommended further testing, and all kinds of different information, for you to like just kind of reference to see what your end goal should be.
What scroll back up. What kind of report is that?
So this is a report for Molvad VPN. So it's a VPN service. It's an they do have their tools as open source. And I think it's every year or every couple of years, they hire a third party to go through and actually pen test their applications and systems and so forth. And so this one in particular is for their apps. And so like if we scroll down here, we can actually take a look at scope. So the scope was these versions for their Android, iOS, and desktop app. And
I thought that was a GRC report. GRC reports look a little different. That's why I asked you that. No, that's cool. That's a pen test. That makes more sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I like how it has a lot of the similar information though. And this is also for an app, which makes it a little bit different too. But I think it is pretty interesting. And I've seen there's a couple other things floating out there too. But I hope that's useful. But yeah, definitely catch back up with me on Discord and remind me, and I can get some other resources together.
We should. I think I'm gonna do a couple, which I struggle, a couple 20-minute videos where I do an EC2, scan it using a compliance scanner, and just kind of go through reports and kind of talk about what that would look like. Because somebody asked me this question, I get this question asked: how do you come up with the scope of work of what you're gonna do? Right. So, kind of talk about that.
Yeah, and I would love to see more like hands-on labs too.
I know, I understand. Go ahead.
Come on, PVO. Yeah, I think it's a pretty interesting report, Space Tacos. Did you have anything to add to that, Rania?
Nope.
Come on, Rania. Come on.
I'm not really in the GRC sphere. I'm just
talk
getting
about it from your sphere. We're not trying to be. We all inclusive. You can bring your sphere too. We cool over here. Whatever sphere you want to
Everybody's
bring.
more GRCs than they'd like to admit.
Yeah, the only thing I could bring to that is just standard report writing, and technical report writing is super important, which a lot of people don't understand. Cybersecurity, IT, GRC, auditing, all of it. You need to be able to, just like that document, you had your title, you had your index. A lot of times, if you're going to present something to someone, you have to have a technical report written like that or similar. And that's a really important part of just any job when you're trying to make recommendations or, point out a problem. You need to be able to appropriately document it. So even if it's not specifically GRC IT related, finding a course, going, a college course for technical writing, a free course. I think LinkedIn Learning has some really good ones. If you have access to that, there's plenty of YouTube videos, but a lot of people don't understand how writing intensive some of these jobs can be. And I think that's what makes B-Dubs so important, just how she went into making those blogs. It shows that she can write to, create an outline and fill in that information. It's not all messed up and out of order. She can flow through a thought process from beginning to end and have, her ABCs in order.
Thanks. And I suck at it. Usually I work for big companies or work with big companies, and the big four are excellent. They have their methodologies, their templates, or if you go to let me give you everybody a quick tip, a dime. If you go to fedramp.gov, they got a ton of templates out there. So I'm always out there taking their stuff and slicing it up the way I need it. So
I'm going to go refill my coffee. In the meantime, Rania and PBO are going to keep you guys entertained. Definitely drop your questions in the chat, or you guys can also come up on the stage. I want everybody to feel comfortable to come up and talk as well. You do not have to turn on your video or otherwise. But yeah, this is all for community. It's a good spot to learn and grow in and just share different perspectives and so forth. And then there's another talk from Wild West that I wanted to mention as well before we start bringing this to an end, which I think is really going to get PBO worked up, to be honest.
I'm excited now.
Yeah, get prepped.
I'm up here working while I'm talking, so a third-party assessment. See what's going on. Let's see what questions, and is there anything you want to touch on? This late. Yeah, I'm with you, Space Tacos. If I drink coffee this late, I'll be up all night. I use coffee now, man. I wouldn't tell. Do we hate?
I'm pretty sure Chris survives off of coffee because I don't know when he sleeps.
No, Amish runway. That's a good question. I could tell. Do we hate AI in this community? No, we don't hate AI. We're trying to give it its proper respect and giving it the proper compliance and the proper security, so it won't give away all the company's secrets or get us hacked by poisoning or get some kind of malware in there. So that actually it does, because I'm a curmudgeon, but no, we don't hate AI. AI is the moneymaker. We just want to make sure that, once again, the privacy is done correctly, the compliance is done correctly, and on top of that, the security is done correctly. Because if we use it and everybody steals our AI and our learning model, why would we have it? So that's my 2 cents on that. R Squared, you got any comments on us hating AI?
I definitely don't hate AI, but I have concerns.
That's good. What's the new topic, Chris?
Space Tacos popped up here, and you guys just left her in the backstage.
Oh, could we let her in?
Trying to grab a link. I was trying to grab a link.
Yeah, I don't think I have the authority. I don't think I have the authority in Restream to bring her up.
Welcome to the party, pal. Space Tacos. Did you have anything to add there?
Thank you. And what am I adding?
Do we hate AI?
I love AI. And I'm sorry I still sound like Barry White.
I was thinking, is that you, Space Taco? We're gonna need to do a secret word, so secret code or something. We're getting hacked, man. We got we about to be bombed. Long story, I was at the state of Indiana doing a big presentation on Zoom. Somebody showed their booty online because we got hacked. The governor's talking and everything. I'm like, uh-oh, somebody about to get fired.
Yeah, no. I was sick last week, so I'm finishing up all my medicine and I feel better.
Okay.
But I still don't have my voice isn't back. It's still down in the basement. I love AI at this point, not to the point that most people do or many people do. I have found the value in using ChatGPT at work, particularly with me to get started writing reports, just because I know how to write in a professional voice, but I'm still wrapping my mind around how to say things in audit professional. Not to mention, on top of that, my director and my assistant general above me don't just say it in audit professional, they have their own version. And what I'm finding is they don't like when I find synonyms for a lot of words that they like to keep standard. So they kind of got they kind of have their own template. The problem is the template is in their head. So I'm always kind of guessing at how to say things. But the AI has gotten me started on a lot of things. And then on top of that, I know a lot of people trying to get into cybersecurity, specifically GRC, want to do like project work. And I actually need to do a few more projects just to keep my website. What's up, Davey? I need to keep my website sort of updated. And I found that AI is pretty good about, hey, ChatGPT, can you, I need to do a lab or a project to put on my resume. Can you create a business for me? I like coffee, so can we make it a little internet cafe? And we do a monthly raffle for free coffee. You just have to enter your business card. You just, drop it in a little bowl on the counter. And can you give me a little coffee shop? And, we've got 7 employees. We bring in about, $50,000 a year, or I'll make up some crazy number to give me something to audit. And it'll set me up with a whole company that I printed out. I'm going to put it in my Discord for people to use if they want to, but it's great for stuff like that. It's just, you ask for it. And I mean, I was on stream with some goofy guys and they made an entire, they got really silly and started making this goofy country music rap song. It was hilarious. But he just kind of kept putting in tweaks, and a ChatGPT kept making this goofy ass rap song. But I find it helpful. You just have to, like PBO said, at some point to sanitize your data, so you don't put, trade secrets or company info, blah blah blah, and that's it. So what's up, FedEx? How you doing?
Yo, how you doing, everybody?
Awesome. How are you doing between your coffee, beer, and bourbon?
Stay thirsty, my friend.
Exactly.
You gotta balance it out. As many of you know, I was born and raised Colombian, so I think I was drinking coffee from the age of 5.
That was about me, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I can drink coffee and go to sleep. As far as AI, I will say one thing. AI is just a matter of a tool. I had this discussion with many people in the past. And, if you are old school like many of us, you remember that you go to the classroom, and in the classroom the teachers will say, well, you will never hold a calculator in your pocket or a radio in your pocket and all this other stuff. And meanwhile, now we carry an iPhone that actually does all this other stuff. Mathematical class will say, well, you can never use a calculator because the calculator will give you the answer, so you need to learn it this way. Now you go to a classroom and say, hey, get a calculator, but it's just a tool.
Real quick, so your microphone keeps like going up and down.
Same thing with the AI. Let's see if it's better. Let's change out the.
Okay. Yeah, it probably is with the, like. Yeah, so it's just like my actual background and my microphone all runs through NVIDIA Broadcast, and it's AI based. So that's funny you say that.
No, I just fixed it right now. I have my Jetty, but I did some changes in here in the background, and I am going straight to the recast. I'm not even going to my normal setup OBS. So you can see my office is a mess. I had a small accident a couple of weeks ago where everything got flooded. So everything is being getting.
I think that's
nice.
Yeah, it's so just like Amish runaways stating is that seems like a really great analogy that you're utilizing with the calculator.
Well, so think about that. And again, we're going back to the discussion. The professor will say, well, you can't even use the calculator. Or now they say, bring the calculator. And yes, a calculator can give you the right results if you know how to input the right input on the calculator. Because you give me a scientific calculator and tell me to find, some equation. And if I never done it in my life, I don't know how to use that tool. And that's the same thing with AI. I mean, AI is an input receiver. You garbage in, garbage out. So you have to be able to prompt. And there's an art on prompting AI. You have to be able to prompt the AI properly to get the right responses. But at the end of the day, it's still a tool. It will not get to the human being. It will not get to the policies. It works with what you're given, especially if you're working with a small LLM. It only has the set of data that you provide. Now, if you go to ChatGPT, if you go to Microsoft Copilot, Claude, if you go to the Google one, I mean, all this are actually large LLMs that are taking a lot of information, but at the same time, they're going to give you the answer based on what you ask and how do you ask it. So you have to be able to prompt it properly. And keep in mind that when you use those services, you are also taking the risk that any information that you're providing there will be used to educate that LLM. So therefore, we, as a practitioners and as a GRC type, we always say, people, do not expose your company's secrets. Do not talk about, do not expose PII. Do not talk about things that, use cases scenarios, use fictitious companies, use change the way like just like Space Talkers was saying earlier, you gotta go and say, let's start role playing. Use role play basis prompting to give you the answer that you want, and then once you get the output, you can go and change the variables for what applies to your company, but never give the AI the real information, because at the end of the day, it's a tool. Especially when you use these services, even if you're paying for the service, that data is still being used to educate, and it's a collected data.
100%. And like one of the things that we've discussed before is like throwing your resume into AI. Modify that confidential, that private information before you throw it into AI. Yeah, right on point.
I changed.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. There's really nothing wrong with actually utilize AI to write or rewrite or help you prompt out your resume and tailor your resume to the job that you're trying to apply. I mean, it is an amazing tool, to be honest with you. If you actually just grab like the actual the job description, and then you grab what they want and then say, okay, here's the job description, here's the XY person, and now you doing again. This is the way I approach it. I do a role-based play simulation. So I say, hey, imagine that you are an actual recruiter for a company X, and company X just actually posted a job for this. Now, this individual wants to apply for this company, and here's this individual's skills. Can you please give me a feedback on why this individual is the perfect candidate or why not? Also, can you tell me what will make this individual skills better fitted to this position, and then you start getting the prompts, and now you go and convert it in your private space and put your name and your stuff and all the other stuff that you need to put in, but never put your PII on any of these things.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and also mention, so actually tomorrow night, I'll also be going live at the same time, so 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll actually be showcasing how I use AI. So like Gemini and a couple other applications. Like I use the conversational speech all the time, and I did demo and show an example of utilizing the chat, the conversational feature with Gemini for practicing with interviewing on one of the recent meetings, and I wanted to do a video all about like how I use it as a tool. So that'll be tomorrow night if you guys wanted to tune into that.
Yes,
but yeah,
please.
definitely a great topic.
I'll tag on.
It's going to be an open. It's going to be an open stage for everybody too. Yeah, it's going to be an open stage for everybody, and I want to get some insights on how you guys use it as well.
I'll tag on to what FedEx said about with the analogy of the calculator. Yes, you're not always going to have a calculator, but the point of learning how to do it by hand is understanding how it works. Because without that understanding, you're just throwing information into the black box of AI. If you at least have an understanding of how to make that calculation, you kind of have it's more personal. Like if you don't know someone and you're being mean on the internet, it's easy to be mean. But when you make it personal, you kind of have more awareness of what you're doing. So if you understand how AI uses that information, you can be a little bit more protective of the information you put into it.
There is always an importance to learning the basics. To anything you do in life, you should know the basics. I have kids right now that are coming home with this weird homework math that I never learned it the way that they teaching it. And because I learned it a different way, I was raised in a different culture. I mean, math is still math. The result would always be the same result. However, I was taught differently. So my youngest daughter come and say, Dad, I gotta do this problem. And I read the problem and I'm like, okay. And so I go and learn. I know the basics of how to respond in my way, but I don't know the basics that has been taught to her. So I use the AI to help me understand those homework sometimes. But you're absolutely right. Yes, we should always learn the basics. I mean, especially if you actually gonna work with a tool, you should at least know the basis of the tools and what the tool is capable of doing, rather than just jump in and start input data. Because at the end of the day, if you do not understand the complexity of the basis of the tool, your results will be skewed to what the data, to how the tool is set. So some tools can be preset a certain way, and the results will be already skewed because of the way of the presets. However, if you know the basis of how to set up that tool or how to utilize that tool, then now you know how your results will vary and how much of a skew you have. Because in any type of results, especially when you're doing some variables for risk analysis, there is a gap in between what's acceptable and not acceptable.
Yeah, and I also want to go ahead and mention, so I just put out a poll on YouTube. So if you guys want to go ahead and vote on that poll, I think it's kind of interesting. So, because I think it was Rania who had mentioned in chat, let me scroll back up to it. It's somewhere around here, about, being polite to AI.
That was me.
But yeah, no, yeah, and I completely agree with you, FedEx. Understanding how it actually works, I think not only benefits for the prompt engineering, but then also it's just good information.
Mm-hmm. 100% agreed. And that new math, FedEx, I'm not about it either. My son is 8.
Well, and also in response to your comment, Rania, about understanding how to write it out. That sounds like a very engineering perspective.
It is. It probably is.
And you know the thing about the math, you just say about the math, but in reality, if you look at that, the results will always be the same.
Yep.
So so your kid math and the math that I was taught, I don't know, 30 plus years ago,
Yep.
the result will still be the same. The result has not changed. The variable has not changed. The way to take or get to that variable has changed because practice or because they find a different way to teach the kids and yada yada yada. Well, that's the same thing with some of these tools and some of the stuff that we do. We always strive for the same result, but there's different ways of how do we get. And I always take this best analogy. It's like driving a car and going from point A to point B.
Yep.
You will at the end of the day, the result is getting to point B. How do you get to point B? It doesn't really matter because there's going to be different, one road can be closed, so you might not have access to X, Y, and Z, or there might be an accident. So it's the same thing that way we approach our results when we do some work. We know what the ultimate goal of our assessment is, but each individual company will be different. And I had this discussion with many people as well. Let's say you use a Splunk and I use a Splunk in my company. Well, just because we have Splunk, that doesn't mean that we use it the same way. My company might have some policies that we do certain things in our Splunk environment, as whereas your company might be more, well, no, we just had it and we let it be out of the box configuration, or we have not done any configuration. So just because you own the same tools doesn't mean that you use it the same way.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and also there's this comment from Amish Runaway, great awesomeness, and I think this should be more. No one is showing when and how they are using AI, but we know we are all using it common now. Stop lying. Yeah, I think AI is used way more than people would like to admit. I really look at AI as a very useful tool. And I think based on a lot of the people that I've talked to is people either are over reliant on AI too much or they don't use it enough. And like I know people personally outside of IT that are actually scared of even using it. Like I was trying to show somebody the other day, like, hey, you could use this, AI assistant on your phone rather than Google searching it. And they're like, nah, I'm okay. I'm like, it's using AI anyways in the search. Like, yeah, but it's kind of interesting. But yeah, everybody has their own way of utilizing these tools as well. And I think it's really important to go out there and talk about it. And I hope that other people join us as well tomorrow. Or even if you can't make it tomorrow, drop it in Discord, either on Team SC or in Study GRC's Discord on how you use AI. You could even make your own video or post about it because everybody else is using it. And I think, we could learn from each other to really leverage these tools.
Well, think about it. We've been using AI for many years. I mean, AI is not something new. Now, the type of AI that we are being experiencing right now, which the word always escaped my head. Someone can help me out. This type of AI is actually something that has been exploding in the last couple of years. But AI in itself has been something that we have been using for years because we have tools. I mean, a lot of SIEMs tools are actually uses AI in the background. I mean, when you have an upwards of 100,000 endpoints in one company, there is no way you can actually, as a human being, take that much data when you have, let's say, 45,000 MPS, which is 45,000 messages per second coming into your actual SIEM, that you can actually be as a human being, see, oh, there's an anomaly here and an anomaly there. It is computational AI that's actually doing those mathematical equations and say, oh, there's something weird. Let's flag it. Let's put it for a human being to analyze it. Now, the AI that we're seeing right now, and again, the generate AI, thank you, Ms. Runaway. The generate AI is what we're seeing now being exploded and used more in the regular basis for everybody, which is actually you enter something, you have a conversation back and forth. You're not using, your CLI configuration to actually tell the AI what is your output that you want to get. Now you just do in plain test, and the AI or the actual computer is capable of analyze that plain test and say, oh, this is what they want. So it is a new age, but it's not new.
Yeah, well, and Amish Runaway, I feel, is probably more familiar with it than I am, because like I've been utilizing AI probably for 3 or 4 years on a regular basis, and then I've just kind of progressively narrowed down on how I can utilize it to and leverage it in my day-to-day life. But now, like Amish Runaway, I know has posted quite a bit in the Simply Cyber Discord regarding it and so forth. And so, like AGI, so artificial. Let me scroll back up to it so I don't get it wrong. But yeah, artificial general intelligence. Now, my understanding of AGI does not actually technically exist yet, is my understanding. I could be wrong. There might be, early versions of it, but that's supposed to be like to the same level of a human being able to automate tasks and so forth. And then it's supposed to slowly, progressively, go beyond the human brain. That's my understanding. I could be wrong with it though. But yeah, definitely correct me. But yeah, right now we have like that generative AI off of machine learning. But it is an interesting landscape.
Yeah, with quantum
so AGI consistently.
With quantum computer coming up, I mean, you got to understand that the problem with the quantum computer is getting the computer to actually do this qubit computational mathematical equations to the speed on a regular, it's expensive. You gotta have like almost sub-zero temperatures. Now they have been working. They actually been working. There's a couple of studies, and I have a friend who actually has she is amazing when it comes to quantum computer, but there's actually been working on trying to do that same equations on a core that is at regular temperature. So if we actually break that barrier and we start getting computational computers to do the AI computing on just a computer that will not require to be in sub-zero temperatures, that's when we're actually going to see the groundbreaking technology changes. That's when we're going to start seeing this thing moving forward.
Yeah. Well, and so I did want to pivot back over to one of the other topics here. So the last talk that we had for Wild West that I had lined out is the hackening. And so that's one that I think is going to really alarm PBO.
Let me pay attention.
Yeah, I think AI is a really, really great topic, and there's so much information out there. I wish I did know more about it. But yeah, and I hope you guys can also tune in tomorrow as well, or we can also set up another stream, because we also have not had a special stream just regarding AI. So that's something we should actually probably line out. I did want to take note. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll, and I find it kind of surprising that 64% say yes, they're polite with AI, and 36% say sometimes. But nobody has said that no, AI doesn't have feelers.
I am in the one that say maybe and not, and no. Sometimes and maybe no. I'm not necessarily polite, because it's still a computer. I mean, I really don't think that the Skynet is going to come up and actually start killing us anytime soon. However,
I'm still young enough to where it could be a concern.
However, I would still say that there are times where you start off having a reply thanks, and then the thing replies back, "Oh, you're welcome." I'm like, "Oh my god, what did I just say?"
Yeah, so typically I'll be polite with AI until it's incorrect. So if it's like just not doing what I want it to be doing, then I may be a little bit more rude with it. Thanks for joining us, Rania. So you have a great evening.
That's cool. She's a real YouTuber. She's a big YouTuber. That's funny.
But yeah, so this other part that I was going to mention is the Hackening, which was presented by Matt Lee and Jason Sagel. Again, I'll go through and drop these in our Discord server as they roll out on YouTube. But so like my notes from that, what was alarming? So basically what this entire talk was about is they came up with this idea while they were drinking a couple beers at the bar, and they're like, hey, you know what would be really cool is to do the hackening. Like, we just go out there and just start hacking MSPs in particular, and see what kind of havoc could occur and so forth. And of course, that would be, black hat hacking and so forth. So instead, since they're ethical hackers, they went through and they actually put out a LinkedIn post saying, hey, we want to basically just, do a free pen test for you with virtually no scope. Anything goes, and we're looking for MSPs to sign up for this. And this is where I feel like PBO is going to have a little bit of a heart attack, because with them stating that, they actually had 62 different MSPs reach out to them who were interested in having this free pen test conducted. And the whole purpose was just because they wanted to get a really good overview of the industry itself, and understand like what is common and what are the problems that need to be solved in the industry, with a good collection of MSPs in particular. Now, the part that gets even worse is not only was it like not really limited on scope and pretty much everything goes, the only limitations were they would not touch the clients for the MSPs. And I think like something along the lines of, did I write this down here? Yeah. So it was like they wouldn't screw with their clients, and they would like stop if they, got too far along or escalated it or something like that. They weren't like out to actually wreak havoc. They were just trying to figure out these vulnerabilities and so forth. So 62 MSPs in total reached out to them. And then they had to sign an agreement. And basically this agreement, they had a lawyer write up an agreement, a contract for this, for legal reasons, of course. And apparently the lawyer actually outright told them, like, there's no way anybody is going to agree to this, because it basically null and voided them from any wrongdoing. And it allowed them to just do anything they wanted practically. Now, the surprising part is out of the 62 total MSPs, 26 of them signed the legal agreement, which shows that those 26 MSPs most likely did not have any legal counsel at all. Yeah, which is kind of concerning. Some other interesting statistics here. So out of those 26 who signed the legal agreements, they actually conducted the assessments on 7 of them, which totaled to over 200 employees and over 40,000 endpoints altogether. So 200 employees and 40,000 endpoints across 7 different MSPs. Out of those 7 MSPs, which also signed that very one-sided contract, they actually had 0 takeovers. And out of those 7 MSPs, only 1 MSP detected any of their activities. The interesting keynote here is the fact that even with the limited scope on this and so forth, they actually had 0 takeovers. They were not actually able to do what they wanted to do. And one of the key things that they mentioned in this talk is one reason why they think that they didn't have a takeover is because with the internet nowadays, if there was a vulnerability that was just open like it typically is, then somebody's already probably, pounded that entry and, it's not there anymore. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to mention, is because I find that absolutely insane that not only did 26 of them sign this legal agreement that they really should not have, but then also they had no takeovers. And there's a couple interesting statistics. So I'll go ahead and open it for the stage for what I've said already, but then there's also some statistic findings here too.
That doesn't surprise me there were no takeovers. I think for me, that's a good sign, because with your basic, even your open source, you do basic scanning, basic vulnerability scans. If they're doing any ISO or NIST, that cuts down your low-hanging fruit. So I guess the guys doing it, I would ask, what's their maturity level, right? Are they top 1%? Are they? I don't want to call them script kiddies. That's a little disrespectful. But what kind of level of pen test are they doing, right? So that kind of makes me lean towards that. And the last thing I'm gonna let you give it back to you is, it doesn't surprise me, because MSPs are trying to get better. and I guess they proved me wrong. MSPs are arrogant enough that they think they can hack, right? So I think that's kind of my take on that. I'll throw it back to you, Chris. Welcome up to Payne. Glad you could join us.
Yeah, welcome to the party, pal. Yeah, if you guys had anything to add.
Who you say, Chris?
So, yeah, so some of the interesting stuff here. So out of the actual targets that they had, and although they had no takeovers, none of them actually had an actual risk assessment done or a pen test done previously out of all of the targets.
I think I catch the tail end of that talk, but for what I saw on and I could be completely wrong, is that they were, even though they had this one-sided agreement that will protect them, they were still trying to be also not a complete destructive to the MSPs. They wanted to get an actual size of what is going on in the industry and show them what the vulnerabilities are and show them how they were run. But at the end of the day, they did not want to disrupt the business, because as a business itself, they didn't even disclose completely what MSPs, and I know they have that data, but they didn't disclose it. Hey, no, this was the MSP that actually fell or not fell. So,
yeah, I believe that I haven't actually seen the contract, of course. I think they did make it public on what the agreement was. But my understanding on the concerning part with the agreement is the lack of scope. So pretty much anything went. Like, it wasn't like they actually stated during the talk that one of the targets was actually like, hey, so there's no scope. Are you going to like show up at my house? Like, we all work remotely. Like, that was a legitimate concern of one of these MSPs. So I think that's like one of the biggest red flags, because, when you do an engagement like that, it's kind of sketchy when, there's, pretty much anything can occur. But also, like, another thing, I think one reason why a lot of these, my assumption would be like, oh, okay, these are not like just some random people. These are well-known industry professionals. Therefore, they, are more trustworthy, is probably another mindset that they had. But I definitely wanted to throw that part out there. I found this really interesting. And the Payne, you said that you think you caught the last tail end of it?
Or that was me. Oh,
okay.
I caught the tail out of it. But I think the Payne actually recently got certified.
Sec Plus? That was about a month ago.
Congratulations.
Damn.
We celebrate that one, man. Hey.
Straight cash, homie.
You got more certifications than I do.
Congratulations.
3 down, about 12 more to go now.
Well, and like an overwhelming portion of this is out of these 62 total. They all had to fill out like a questionnaire, and overwhelming amount of them had never had an assessment done or a red team engagement occur. The majority of them, I think all of them actually, didn't even have like risk management implemented. One of the key things that they mentioned is like the average MSP makes less than 5 million a year. And so they kind of bleed for money too. Like, that seems like a lot of money, but in business, it's really not. So, they don't really have that money to go throw out there.
I thought you gotta see how much, what were the MSPs that they were targeting, because it could be a small mom and pop shops. I mean, a lot of people call it an MSP, and it's a team of 2 or 3 guys just working in there, and they call themselves MSPs. If you're familiar with, it's a big YouTuber right now that does a lot of Ubiquity stuff, and he started as an MSP, and he started as a group of 1 and has grown his business from there. So he does great, and I'm not dunking on them, because I actually learn a lot of content from them as well. When it comes to doing any Ubiquity or unified products. But, just because you call yourself MSP, that doesn't mean that you are a huge company, So without knowing exactly what kind of MSPs do they target, we don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think even with the 62 different MSPs, it really goes to show that, you know, a large majority still aren't doing, you know, best practices though. But the surprising, alarming part is the fact that they still had no takeovers. I kind of wish it was a larger.
Alarming?
I'm sorry?
Why do you think that was alarming? There was no takeovers.
I think it's alarming in the fact that these companies supposedly didn't have proper best practices implemented. They didn't have regular, if any, red team engagements on a regular basis or audits, and yet there was still no takeovers. I find that alarming in the fact that, you know, in the industry itself, you know, we say, oh, you know, we should do all of this different stuff, but yet these companies still got away with it, per se. And that worries me because I don't want, you know, somebody to come across that talk and be like, oh, we're fine then. That's why it's kind of alarming to me.
For me, I think I'm kind of taking that the other path is, and you're right. It's good because that means our security level, even at the basic level, is coming up. Because a lot of times when you're an MSP, I'm sure they're in AWS. I'm sure a lot of them, you know, they're jumping on other servers, right? So you get that basic security by using the big guys as part of your MSP, right? So for me, I think that's a win because that means we're bringing our level of security up. So you at least got to have a, you know, I understand what you're saying. Like, why are we telling those people that? Because the script kiddies can't get you now, but the mid-level guys, the hacktivism guys, you know, nation state's gonna take you out. Israel, you know, they the top of the tier, right? So I think we're at least bringing up our minimum level of security up by just basic stuff, patching. If you're doing an MSP and you're in AWS, right, and you're using their infrastructure for your MSP, all right, so or just doing basic patching with Windows, just cutting Windows patching on, and it's patching, taking care of the little stuff. But I get what you're saying. But for me, I'm kind of a little happy because it's like, okay, at least we're not falling for the okie doke and the banana tailpipe. That's the Eddie Murphy joke for everybody under 40, right? So, but no, that's my take on it, Chris.
Well, I mean, if you're at the point where the main threat to your business is a sovereign nation, I'd say your security is pretty good.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. But once again, I think our basic level with, if you got Windows Defender now, which most people do, you get a lot of stuff out the box for free for pretty cheap. If your MSP is sitting on one of the top of the big guys and you're just using their infrastructure, you get a ton of stuff for the AWS, Azure, and even Google, right? Those big guys. So once again, you get a ton of base security with that.
So what was happening is in this engagement, they ended up agreeing with 7 different managed service providers to pen test their environments with virtually no scope. So so whether it be phishing attempts, their email servers, their tooling, pretty much anything and everything. Which is also one reason why, like, one of them particularly was like, "Hey, are you going to show up at our house?" Like physical pen testing, which they were laughing about too. But so that's what this was more so about. And I wanted to bring this up just because I was absolutely amazed that even with these industry professionals, they were not able to have a takeover, even despite these companies not having anything properly implemented. So,
well, I think proper implemented is not the correct word. They don't have a program, right? I think they have some stuff properly implemented. Once again, Defender, but doing your basic Windows patch Tuesday, I think you're getting a lot of stuff. A lot of people are getting the extra stuff on Windows Defender because it's pretty expensive. A lot of people get part of EDR, XDR. I think Windows Defender pretty cheap, a poor man's version of that. So I think once again, I think you get a lot of security features, less expensive, and I think people just pay for them, right? So,
okay, keep in mind now that Windows 11 coming up, and they announced it a week ago also that they are doing hot patches where they will actually start fixing patches without having you to restart. So that's supposedly help out the enterprise to maintain their endpoints patch and secure without having to encounter so much disruption to the endpoint user. So I think Windows is working as well on trying to maintain their systems less vulnerable.
Yeah.
Well, and it seems like a lot of companies are already defaulting to the Microsoft ecosystem. And like I've heard a lot of good things about Defender. So I think that's a pretty good advantage too. But yeah, I just found it really interesting. And so like I pulled it up here on the screen. And like that's a screenshot from one of the slides that they had for the statistics. You know, like 29% of them actually use Cloudflare or Fastly proxies or web application firewalls to protect their endpoints or their server.
How good?
74. Go ahead.
How good is the company doing a test though? Right? What level are they at though? Right? I mean, are there
the people who ended up actually doing this? I can scroll up here. So Matt Lee and Jason Sagel, and so they were actually teamed up with John Hammond. Was even involved with this
I'm
project.
good. Once you say Hammond, I'm good. Once you say Hammond, I'm good. Yeah. Once you say Hammond, I'm good. Keep going. I'm good. Once you say Hammond, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I almost forgot his name actually, but yeah. So the redhead of Tyler Ransby. So the more well-known version of Tyler Ransby. So yeah, they're very well experienced.
Matt Lee is awesome. I mean, if you know Matt Lee, he actually goes around a lot, does a lot of engagements. He has CISSP, CCSP, CFR, PMPT. I mean, Matt Lee is a killer when it comes to the stuff on hacking and pen testing. So
you good, FedEx? So I trust you, FedEx. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, let me ask you. So I believe Matt Lee is the guy who he travels like 363 days a year, right?
Almost. I mean, I think in December he was actually doing a 16 days row. And I think he actually traveled with his wife or something like that. Like he was like 16 days in a row in December, just doing conference talks and even engagements and teaching. So yeah, crazy travel schedule for sure.
Yeah. Let me answer Pete. No, I love John Hammond. I told him he was good. Once he said John Hammond, I was done asking him questions. John Hammond is definitely top on my list because my hacking skills compared to here, now I'm not in the same stratosphere. Now, John Hammond is well loved in the ecosystem, YouTube, and the cybersecurity now. So now John Hammond's good with me, Space Tacos.
He is definitely the definition of Skynet. That guy does not sleep.
I know. Definitely a John Hammond fan. Go ahead.
Space Tacos might have dropped, but thank you for joining Space Tacos, and then also the Pain. No worries whatsoever. Thanks for hopping up here. I want people to feel comfortable to come up and join the conversation if you'd like to. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that's available. So, but yeah. So also 74% of these people on this engagement out of the 7, so 5 out of 7 of them listed clients on their website, which the presenters positioned as a vulnerability, because then a black hat hacker is going to be like, oh, if I get this one client, this one company, then I get access to all of these other ones. So, and same thing with the list of employees, 85% of them, so 6 out of 7 of them listed their employees on their website.
You know, and it's funny that you mentioned the employees on their website, because as you know, I wear many hats, and one of the things that I encounter almost on the daily basis is they proven some of my users' emails against our system. They are trying to crack their passwords, and you know, the thing is, it's not that difficult to find their emails, because their emails are listed in a blog post, or they are more from the PR side of the company, or they're more active. So those are emails that are more prone. They have a title, and the first thing that happened. So talking about this stuff, and this is something that you should always if you are managing or teaching people in any company cybersecurity, if you got a brand new employee, make them aware about this, because this has happened 99% of the times I've seen it. Hey, I got a job in company YNC and I'm starting my new position next week. LinkedIn. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks after, by the way, your CEO is contacting you because they wanted you to get Apple gift cards. And it's like, oh, how
Well,
this
and
happened?
so
Well, I mean, you just announced the company. And if I know the schema of the company, which many companies has first name, last name, or first and last name at company so and so, now I got your email and I'm just going to start bombarding you because you are brand new. You are most easy target to get into a fish email.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. So, like, a lot of people pointed out because of the situation that happened with United Healthcare CEO, that these healthcare companies withdrew their board members from the website as well. I think the same thing goes for all of these other companies as well. I don't think that it's really. I kind of don't feel like you should probably list your employees themselves on your website, but at the same time, it's not like it's hard information to find because a lot of these people already list their employer on their social media or, otherwise. Like there's so many different avenues that these threat actors can take to, target them. So like you mentioned on LinkedIn, like, oh, I just got this job. That's not only a common one, but so many different aspects. Like I've also seen, like, with companies I worked at, we would have like company potlucks, and everybody would be posting photos online of everybody, tagging everybody too, and the whole 9 yards. Like that happens all the time. So there's way more than just the website.
I'll tell you what's even worse. States do common RFPs. So when they win, it tells you, we bought the new Oracle appliance 21.7.1.3. I'm like, shit. So you count it too because it's taxpayer money. But if you scanned if you're a big state agency, the vendor puts it on because they want to know you want it. They're like, the state bought X or the state bought this. I was like, man, we got to figure a way to do that. So they tell you the whole stack.
Yeah, and that's crazy. I mean, that's one thing that you do when you're talking about your security stack. You should be careful what you say, because you start having a conversation with somebody and say, "Oh yeah, we leverage that tool and we leverage this tool," and then all of a sudden somebody might be listening and say, "Oh, they leverage that tool, so now I know how I'm gonna craft my payload to attack that company because they leverage that tool." Because I know that tool might be vulnerable to X, Y, and Z. And so, there's a lot of information that you find online about a company. Like people does not realize how much information they post or they reveal from their companies in a mere simple post. I actually had this discussion with my wife many times. She asked me, so why you don't post pictures of our vacations all the time? I say, I post it when I come back. I don't need people to know that I'm not home.
Facts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff yeah, and so there's a couple different shout outs I want to do. So let me see here. So like there's some discussion about books. I'm going to go ahead and drop this resource in chat. But so Cybersecurity Central has a lovely blog here from Alexis about different cybersecurity related books and topics. Also on the Simply Cyber website, there's also a resource section with a whole ton of books as well. So there's that resource there for books. But then also, let me pull this up here. So this is, all right, here we go. So this is just hacking. So just hacking training. All right. And this is also in connection with John Hammond as well, and a couple other
That's the
people.
John Hammond website. Yes, that's actually, he launched it the week of Wild West.
Exactly. And so there's a bunch of really cool things on here, but one of the big things that I want to point out is there are some like pay what you can things. So Level Up OSINT with Michelle Kahn. Let me see. So it's a name your price on that one. But I think they had a free version of this too. So definitely check. You can check this out. I'm pretty sure they have one where it's also free.
Michelle
But
is
I
really
wanted to go
good
ahead
when
and
Michelle is really good when it comes to Austin, and for you to learn about Austin, it is amazing resources he got in there.
Yeah.
And I believe there's also Michelle Khan and anti-siphon training too. So if you want to learn how
yeah.
to disappear or how to actually do Austin, Michelle Khan is actually the way to go. Highly recommend it, I would say.
Yeah, and I got to take a closer look at this, but yeah, they have some pretty interesting courses that are coming out on here, including Michelle Khan's that were launched on here too. At least this one says $50 minimum, but I believe they were doing a free one too, like a free tier. But we'll take a look at that. Another thing to drop real quick too in relation to the privacy realm is operationprivacy.com. And so this is also another free tool. You get like 80% of it for no cost at all, which is a really great resource as well, if you're interested in that. Bam. But we are over our 2.5 hour mark now. Yeah, PBO's like, I'm going to bed.
No, absolutely. I'm working a little bit, so it's all good. A lot of times I'm here, I'll just be multitasking. So
yeah,
looking up some security
I was really surprised at the whole MSP thing, to be honest. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for the stage again too. So we can still stick around for a few more minutes if you guys have any other questions or otherwise.
I would say I'm gonna drop you a chat in private so you can show it out, but it's coming live in the next 20 minutes. Our own friend from the community, DJ Visek, will be live doing Try Hack Me Day 19, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's one issue.
What's up?
You dropped me the link for his YouTube channel. We got to send everybody to Twitch to use the snowball effect.
I get the Twitch. Oh yeah. So check this out. Actually, I learned something from him the other day, which was pretty cool. YouTube has a way to measure level of engagement, and so if people are actually engaged in your, even if you don't have that, but there's more engagement in your stream, it will actually help your numbers. So that's why he actually has set up that. That's the reason why he sets up the engagement in there for you to actually do the snowball fight and vice versa, because it actually tricks the algorithm of YouTube. So you learn something new.
Yeah, and also like another big thing is comments on videos. So even after our live stream, dropping comments, likes, subscribing, also turning on the notification bell. So when you subscribe, you can also select the notification bell for all notifications, which also plays an effect on the YouTube algorithm. So yeah. But yeah, I hope everybody got some value out of this. As these Wild West Hacking Fest videos drop out on YouTube, I'll keep everybody updated on the Discord and share that out. They're actually putting it into a playlist, so I'll drop that here in a moment. Let's see. I may just stick around for the next 20 minutes until BSEC goes live. I'm sure I could keep you guys entertained. We can go back to AI or something, hot.
That's the link for today, but his schedule in Twitch actually say 8 p.m. Eastern time. So
awesome. Let's see. Which one was I going to do here?
All right, so they were talking. So Amish Runaway and the Pain talk about the coming wave, and I want to bring it to that book because I actually read audiobook. I didn't read it. Audiobook. I'm horrible at reading. I actually hate reading, but I can audiobook a lot. And believe me, it's a struggle because if I had to actually read a SOC report, they don't give those in audio, so you had to read the SOC. But that's out of the topic. But the Coming Way, yes, the Coming Way is actually a book created by one of the fathers, actually, I would say, from AI and founders from DeepMind, and which Google bought it. And it is a great way that he explains where AI started and where it's coming and what is coming with AI. And again, I think that the what I actually gathered from the book is the same thing that we've been preaching. AI is a tool. It's a tool that is powerful. It's a tool that is common and is unstoppable. I mean, you can actually see how Microsoft is pushing it down our throats with Windows 11. It's not going to go anywhere, but at the end of the day, it's still a tool. It's still gonna need operators, and the future of cyber and the future of actually AI manipulation is gonna be the people that learns and know how to utilize that tool.
It's definitely going to be the next big security risk for businesses, at least. Because if we thought phishing emails were bad, what's going to happen when, Carl decides he wants to put the entire clientele database list in a public AI to try and make his job faster?
Good point. Good point.
I gotta look up for the actual news, but I believe this beginning of this month there was, and it was told in the daily cyber thread, there was the first vulnerability hack that it was actually fully done by AI. So it's coming. Okay, so it was by, okay, there it is. Google claims world first as AI find 0-day vulnerability, security vulnerability.
Looking at the chat, it seems like it's pretty common. A lot of people are listening to it.
It was on November the 5th.
I've heard of the book. Jerry's mentioned it before, but I have not actually ordered it.
They have it on, if you got Audible, you can get it in Audible, which is how I actually read the book in Audible.
I have a really hard time listening to books just because I really have to focus. And usually if I listen to audiobooks, then I end up tuning out and working on something else and then forgetting half of what I heard. So that's why I actually prefer paperback. I do read some digital books, but yeah, the audiobooks are a struggle for me.
Yeah, I also have that issue where I get easily distracted on the computer. My workaround is, instead of listening to the radio in the car, I'm always listening to Audible as I'm driving anywhere to and from work.
That's the latest book.
Yeah, and if I do listen to an audiobook, it is on Spotify. So Viper mentioned that.
That's the latest book that's the latest book I read. Is Traces in the Dark. So I actually enjoyed this one because I had the hard copy. It was given by the author. Designed by the author.
That's a great. I've read that one too.
It was given by the author. One of my coworkers was actually on an event where the author was there, so he actually got a copy from them, and I was reading it as I'm listening through audiobook 1.5. Man, talking about a great book.
Yeah, I'm still working my way through the college textbook for GRC compliance, but then also I'm going back through this other one that I had mentioned before. So Stop Asking Questions, which is all about interviewing. But one of my personal favorites, so also the Phantom CISO series. I have a whole bookshelf back here you guys can't see, but the Phantom CISO is a really good one. But then also Cybersecurity First Principles is probably my favorite cybersecurity book from Rick Howard. So, and he does a really great breakdown of the history of information security ever since its inception, and then really breaks down all the different possible first principles of cybersecurity, because we don't really actually have a first principle. Like the CIA triad is not actually a first principle. And a lot of other scientific areas do have first principles, like physics and mathematics and so forth. And we still have yet to find that in information security. And so he breaks down a bunch of different options of first principles and then explains why he doesn't think those are actually first principles. So, and honestly, that's kind of the downer of the book, is that there's not really a one size fits all. There's not really a solution.
So I got a question for you, for you GRC nerds, PBO and Chris.
Nerds. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you guys
Nerd.
breed it more. You guys breed GRC more than we do. But I'm gonna ask you this question: what are your thoughts on AI in GRC? Because let's be honest, a lot of companies have a policy say, well, we have an AI policy, and the policy is we don't use AI, and that is unacceptable. That is not true, because there's going to be always someone that's going to use some sort of AI. I mean, as I do scan vulnerabilities of applications in my system, I found many of my users using AI or LLMs type, such as Grammarly, such as something to help me write better, such as I use ChatGPT because we don't have a blog, or because they figured out a way to actually implement. So we are, and again, this is a practical way that I'm involved in is I'm scanning and see what they're doing, but I'm also taking control of what they're doing as well, because we can't. It's coming. It's the future. It's happening. I mean, you open Edge right now. A Copilot's there, so it's to the user. Especially if you are a Microsoft Workshop, you open your N365 account, you open Edge, and it's already built into your tenant, the free version at least. So, what is your position on that? What is you see your future of GRC? Because creating policies over that, I mean, I think the UA is the only one that's been actually implementing a full regulatory policy and a structure on AI, but I haven't seen much yet in the USI.
You gonna give your hot take, PBO?
Yeah, I'll go first. I know if you want to take a shot, but no, FedEx, you're 100% right. Let's start with the first
Lock
thing.
it all down.
The policy, that's really CYA for us. So if the pain wants to do something, we can fire him with no recourse and blame it on the pain, right? But you're correct. Let's dig down. That's where we got to put our technical hat on. What can you scan? What can you whitelist? Right? Those are some things. And if you're using it, how can you secure it? The part companies are doing and AWS doing it. When you bring that data over to build your model, how do you secure it so you make sure nobody's messing with your data? Right. So the first thing is protecting AI if you're going to use it. How do you make sure it stays on your network? How do you make sure it stays your model? The other ones you just said is how do you whitelist it? How do you scan for it? Right. So those are kind of some of the basic things because people are going to use it. And executives want to use it. So if they want to use it, we're going to use it because you're not going to tell an executive no, right? The CEO went to some trade show and they done sold him on it, right? It's the next big thing. So he's going to want to do it. You're not going to tell him no. So for us, like you said, the policy is just the paperwork. For me, it's the whitelisting, controlling what you run. For me, stigging. So there's a lot of things you can block, hopefully. And my boss always hate when I say this. We just need to fire one person a year using AI. Everybody else to fall in line. We just need to get one person. We just need to get one person a year, big boss. We fire one person who's going to flow through the organization. She hates when I say that. She goes, and I'll be dead serious. We need to just fire one person a year. Everybody else will fall in line. Go ahead, Chris. That's my 2 cents on it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think especially with some of it that you mentioned, I think a lot of it comes down to configurations. So like you could disable Copilot, and especially if the company is not utilizing Copilot on Windows, well, why would you have that? Like, why allow them to use it?
The problem with Microsoft, especially in Office 365, and I actually got in a shouting match with Microsoft, they give you features and you don't have to opt into them. I'm like, dude, you added features. I haven't got a chance to do a third-party assessment. They said it's part of what you bought. I'm like, I don't want that part. I want to whitelist what I want. If they have a new program, a new feature, they just put it out there. You have no say-so on it whatsoever.
I mean, so think about the recall feature. How they come back and forth on recall.
Yeah.
They say that it was not going to be enabled. I'm sorry, they was going to be enabled, and then it was not going to be enabled, and then now it's going to be enabled, but you need to opt out. And now they say, oh no, it's not going to be enabled, but you can opt in. I trust Microsoft as I trust I don't know, food poisoning from a car street.
The like taco really truck bad. On the corner.
Yeah, like Microsoft changed their mind back and forth so many times that you really as a practitioner has to actually be careful. You gotta keep up with the changes. You gotta keep reading in what they're doing. You gotta keep scanning your system. You gotta keep doing that risk assessment on your environment, because it's a never stopping thing. It's the same way as using Purview for data labeling and DLP.
Yeah.
You had to be able to maintain all those DLP policies. You had to be able to continue looking and see what people is creating, because as people create links, or people create data, or people, or more data gets created, it could be a higher risk of exposure. So you had to keep it's a non-stopping homework.
And I used to do Purview. It was crazy.
Did you want to take this real quick, the pain?
Sure. So he really balances it out where he talks about all the benefits that AI can have, but he really starts to nail down how there's I can't remember the words he used. It was like basically AI pessimism and optimism, and how people go entirely one way or entirely the other, and how, like, part of the book I'm in now, he talks about how basically foreign governments need to start talking to each other and setting up like worldwide regulations like we have on nuclear treaties or editing DNA, because as they've seen with the AI he's been working on, it could create a lot of downsides. One of the things he really likes to bring up is CRISPR, and how for $20,000 you can edit human DNA in your garage right now if you want to, if you have like a master's degree in genetics. You throw in an AI, you could have, Jerry. I don't know, that's an awkward name for me to pick. You could have Cletus in West Virginia. He decides he doesn't like the federal government. He takes some community college classes, has AI does the rest of the work, and he makes COVID 25. And we need to start looking at what we let AI do and how do we even stop it if we can.
And it wasn't at Wild West, but I also remember listening to like a webinar about the dark sides of AI as well, which touched on a lot of that different stuff too, on how AI has a lot of benefits, but it also has a lot of consequences too. So yeah. But
Hey,
yeah, that's
Chris,
kind of interesting. I think that's a great rundown.
I think he just went live right now.
Oh, did he just go live? I was watching.
Yeah.
Oh, he is. Okay. We're going to swap over there here in just a moment. I think that's a really good topic that you were bringing up there, though, FedEx. Like my perspective as far as like the AI usage from the GRC standpoint, like I've actually been surprised because like a lot of people don't even understand that there are data loss prevention systems for AI. Like with Google, for an example, they make it extremely easy to be able to, pick and choose what employees should be able to submit to it.
And
I think
Microsoft is trying to get
it.
and Microsoft is trying to get really good at it too as well in Purview. But one thing that I found with Purview, and PVO just pointed out that Purview was crazy, is that Purview does not always get it right. So you should always have that onion layer type of mentality security, where you actually just pile on top of another one. I know tools are expensive, but there are tools that are actually complement Purview really well when it comes to DLP and labeling of files. And so you should be able to leverage your Purview, but also layer with one of these other partners, and then keep that balance.
Perfect. All right. And then with that, we're going to go ahead and end it here. I'm going to drop the link for DJ BSEC, and we're going to go raid him. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you, The Pain, PBO, FedEx, Space Tacos, Rania. We had Rhonda earlier, so many different people, Amish Runaway, everybody who came and joined us and participated here. It's great to get everybody together every week, and I look forward to next week. I'll catch you guys on Tuesday for the privacy stream. And GRC Mafia, let's go raid him now. Bam. I went ahead and pinned that. And thank